What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. The playoff beard comes off on Wednesday, so we got two more shows of this bad boy, and then that thing's out of here, guys. It's been a crazy man since I last talked to you. It's been 9 hours? I want to say about. It has been a crazy 9 hours. The phone has been blowing up like steady over here. And we got a lot to talk about, man. We got, information keeps coming in. We're going to go over that. About an hour ago, I had a pretty interesting phone call regarding the name that I'm hearing is being pushed right now towards from Dan Marino. I'm hearing that Dan Marino is pushing a name right now. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the usual. We'll do the PFF grade. We'll do the next gen stats. You're actually going to skip the snap counts this week because for some reason they have not been posted yet. And then again, we all know why the reason they haven't been posted yet. But I have snap counts in PFF and next gen if I need them. But we'll forego the snap counts because that means more time to talk about this whole Brian Flores situation. Guys, already 120 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. If you'd like to donate, paypal.me/Phinside. You can also become a Patreon, patreon.com/Phinside the NFL. For example, the Patreon's got first access to finding out the Marino information I'm going to drop. PatchVibes.com, use code Phinside, save 20% off of your order. BackroomCollection.net, use code Reason, save 10% off your order. And ThriveFantasy.com, use code Phinside, have every dollar up to your first 100 deposited match by ThriveFantasy.com, your number one website in fantasy prop betting. All right, let's get into all this stuff. So, before we dive into everything, I guess let's talk about what I'm hearing right now. And there's a couple things I've heard. So one thing is the name that I'm hearing Brian Flores that is on the table to replace Brian Flores from Dan Marino. Dan Marino is currently on Stephen Ross, who we know he's like, Marino's one of his biggest advocate, has his ear, all that jazz. The name that I'm hearing is Doug Pederson. That's who Dan Marino is currently pushing for. You guys remember Doug Pederson backed up Dan Marino for about 4 years, I believe, in his career. Obviously, he has a Super Bowl appearance and win under his belt. But that is the name that I'm hearing Marino is pushing in Marino's ear. Sorry, in Stephen Ross's ear. And I wanted to clarify something earlier. When I dropped that Flores bomb earlier, someone said to me, oh, you said 2020. No, I meant 2021. March to June 2021. Not 2020. I apologize. I got so excited earlier. I got my date screwed up. But yeah, the name I'm hearing is Doug Pederson from Marino. That's who Marino's pushing. I'm not saying this is going to be who the guy is. I'm just hearing that's where Marino camp is falling. In regards to the Deshaun Watson thing, I mean, I told you guys what we've heard from multiple people reporting now. I heard that it did affect, this move has affected the Watson thing, but that I've not heard Watson is off the table by any means. So, I'm not here. I haven't heard anything that I've heard from Watson's camp. The Flores move could affect the outcome, but I have not heard that like Watson doesn't want Miami or Miami doesn't want Watson. I have not heard that. And I said earlier, it's kind of telling when Ross said, when he said the quarterback decision will be up to the coach, and he said, or whoever that is in terms of the quarterbacks when he's talking about Tua. So we'll let that play out. I personally think it's inevitable that it's going to come out that, we are going to court Harbaugh to some capacity. Like, let's be honest. And I see a lot of people giving, okay, so let me tell you, okay. So things I've heard about Pederson aren't the most flattering in terms of like, I heard Carson Wentz didn't respect him. The only coach that ever came through during the Carson Wentz era that Carson respected was Frank Reich. I heard Doug Pederson in the team meetings when they'd be breaking stuff down and they'd be going over some tape. Pederson would point out to Carson Wentz in front of the team, okay, you did this wrong, da 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 da. And Carson would blow him off with, okay, don't worry, we'll get him next time, Doug. And Malcolm Jenkins hated Carson Wentz. And I've heard, Doug Pederson had conversations with his coaching staff, bringing them all together and trying to figure out how can we get the team to like Carson Wentz. So, like, when I look at the Carson Wentz situation, it's like Carson was clearly toxic. He let it continue to go on because he wanted his quarterback. And like that eventually, and then the split with Philadelphia basically came where, the reason why they hired Sirianni and not like someone like Bieniemy is because the upper brass wanted full control of football decisions, including stuff on the field. And Sirianni was ready to fall in line. Pederson was telling him to stick it. Nick donated $4.99. Said, gun to your head. How long until we hire our next OC? Are we the hottest? I think we're the hottest head coaching job out, Nick. And the reason why I say that is this. A, location, you're in Miami. B, I'm telling you guys, listen. If you bring Jim Harbaugh, guys, and he brings Vic Fangio, I don't want to hear nothing about the defense. Fangio is on like top 4 defensive minds in the NFL right now, Mount Rushmore. Like Fangio, the reason why Fangio got fired is because he couldn't get the quarterback right. That's what ended up being Fangio's demise. They played twiddly dinks this offseason, and instead of replacing Locke when they had the chance in the draft pick, they decided to take Teddy B, right? And they missed out. So that ended up being his. But Fangio, his defense went to the Super Bowl, and everywhere Fangio has gone, his defense has always been top 10. And I'm telling you, Harbaugh with Fangio, I'm telling you, you want to cut to a Harbaugh? I support you 110%. You want to roll with Tua Harbaugh? I support you 110%. You know why? Because Harbaugh and Jim Caldwell, I put in that category too. Those guys have something Brian Flores, at least for me, they have something that Brian Flores could never give me, and that's comfortability with all 3 phases of the football. Flores just couldn't get the offense right. And whether it's, and y'all, what was I saying? What was I saying? Even about Watson, what did I say? I'm worried about this coaching staff and this regime in place. I do not trust them to properly build and develop the rest of Watson to reach his ceiling. Because Watson's only 26 going on 27. He's got a ceiling. And I don't trust them to build around Tua and develop Tua because they've already proven they're inept. Like, this is the best thing. If you think about it, we can go get a veteran OC now. Like, no more Godsey. Like, there would be few. Gerald Alexander, my secondary coach, he would be staying on this team. I would be keeping Gerald Alexander. He is one of the many coaches. There's one of a few coaches I still would keep or try to keep. Gerald Alexander, I would keep. Gerald Alexander is going to be a star. I would keep Gerald Alexander. I think he's going to be a star, if you want my honest opinion. I would keep him. There's a couple coaches I would keep, and I'm fine with. The whole offensive side of the football, good night. I'll drive you to the airport right now. Let's go right now. I'll drive you. Miami International. I'll fly down there right now just to drive y'all to the airport. One by goddamn one, the Ants can go marching into the airport. I am sorry, bro. But I think but Fangio's going to want to bring in his own guys. Let's be honest, right? So, I mean, hey, it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes down. And then, there's first-time head coach guys. Brian Dabble is out there. Eric Bieniemy is out there. I mean, there's literal, there's guy out here. So, you know what I mean? Like, Doug Pederson, it's going to be very interesting. And I mean, I personally, the Flores' downfall though wasn't that come down to coaching. Flores wasn't a people person. People are trying to make this strictly about Tua and Flores. This is not strictly, dude. Xavier Howard, the key to Brian Flores' defense, hates Brian Flores. Like, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, you know, Greer. We'll get into some stuff here. We should just jump into it. We'll start off with Twitter and then we'll get into the articles. But you're going to see stuff that's put in front of you tonight. You're going to be like, yo, this guy, I've been warning you, since all of you, since last offseason, when I started really establishing legitimate connections to this team. And I kept telling y'all, I kept telling y'all, Flores is not the guy y'all are seeing in front of your camera on media availabilities. I kept telling you. That's what opened my eyes the most. He was not that guy. And I was seeing a bunch of flaws in what he was preaching and what he was practicing. Stuff wasn't lining up for me. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. You look at this situation, it's Samuel, DVP was, what's funny is no big stars on the defense, like, no big stars on the defense like Ogba, Xavier Howard, other than Byron Jones. And we all know Byron Jones was a teacher's pet. I've told y'all that for like a year. All the, like, X, Ogba, none of them came out for and no one on offense other than Robert Hunt has come out for Brian Flores. No one. Tua's been so silent. All this rumbling and stuff going on, and Tua ain't even said a word. I agree, Rome Gray, with what you just said about putting this staff together. Come on, guys. Wilkins is not a star around the league. Let's be honest with ourselves. I think Wilkins is an in-house star. Baker's not, I mean, I guess but Baker's a Flores boy. We already knew this. You know what I mean? I think Wilkins is a star. You go nationally, they're not going to label Wilkins as a star. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? So let's get into it. So, okay, so just the most recent update. Let's start off with this. Ian Rappaport is reporting that the Dolphins and Bears are requesting permission to interview Bills OC Brian Daboll. He'll get more interest as well. I mean, former OC. I like the mind. I like the experience with Tua. Again, a guy I've heard things about in terms of his personality. But I've heard them. I don't know this guy from a can of paint. I'm just telling you things I've heard. But I like Daboll. So I don't hate this move at all. It's one thing to hear about how someone asks somewhere else. Let's see how they act when they're in the house. That's what matters to me. So, the Bears and the Dolphins requesting permission to interview Brian Daboll, and that's a guy where Ken Dorsey could come over as his OC, or Ken Dorsey could take a promotion in Buffalo, but he could be dangling Ken Dorsey. And that's also a guy, he was the offensive coordinator, I believe, in Tua's freshman season. So he knows Tua. So there's another guy of mine where he's known Tua, he's worked with Tua. If he's going to tell you he wants another guy instead of Tua, wouldn't we all have to kind of listen? Because, he coached the kid. I'm just saying. So Brian Daboll is reported. Another thing I want to say, there were 3 yards per carry, guys. Shout out to Alf and Simon and the guys over there. But, 3 yards per carry today, they were reporting that Flores wasn't on speaking terms with Tua or Greer by the end of this all. They also reported that Greer had to intervene between Godsey and Flores after Flores took Godsey's play calling duties away because of something done in the preseason. And then here's the big one. This is the one that's really sending shockwaves. Rumors are that Flores held 2 out of the Baltimore game as punishment for telling people he was healthy enough to play against Houston. That's a crazy power play. Again, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You know, I knew Tua was golfing leading up to that Baltimore game and the Houston game. I knew he was good to go. I had been told that. And what ended up happening? Now we're hearing this. When I saw the golfing part, you know what I mean? I was like, because there's someone else, I think it was Barry Jackson or some of those people reported about he was golfing only hours after the Baltimore game. I knew about that. I knew he was going out and playing 18 holes and stuff. This was Flo holding him out. I knew about that stuff. But anyways. All right, so a couple other things today. 2 different people, both David Hyde and Michael Lombardi. Michael Lombardi said, look out for Jim Caldwell being under strong consideration in Miami. And then Dave Hyde tweeted out not too long after. He said, keep an eye on Jim Caldwell. So remember, they don't have to request permission, right? So that's one we might not hear about till after it happens, right? Now, continuing on here, we want to talk about stuff here. Just some interesting Instagram posts from players. Number 1, Damon Arnett. He is Netway Gang. That Netway Gang is Damon Arnett. Someone said, we getting Watson, huh? Netway Gang said, Tua QB number 1. So there you go. You got a defensive player showing some support, showing some love. Shout out to, I believe that was Highly Bred that put that up there. You go to Xavier Howard and his Instagram stories. It's easy to point the finger at others when you're not happy with yourself. So, I mean, and this was after the Flores firing this morning. I mean, I know Xavier Howard is not a fan. He is not a fan at all. So, I mean, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Continuing on, because there's more. So, Ben Albright, who's been, pretty freaking spot on with not just us, but the guy's an NFL insider for a reason, not just a, Broncos insider. He was asked, about Harbaugh and the Dolphins, and he's the one who told me that they would try. He didn't know if they succeed. He said, I don't think it's Harbaugh. Rumor is they like Leftwich. So Byron Leftwich, the currently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My issue with Leftwich is this, okay? I want to see what you do without Tom Brady. You know what I mean? I know you're the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, but is that really a hard job when you look at the talent on that team? I mean, you saw Antonio Brown with that whole mess that went down. The rumors coming out where it's basically Tom Brady's the GM of that team. I mean, who do you think's running that offense? Come on now. So I don't know if I want to follow in that Leftwich trap. I'd rather go with Dabble, a guy who developed Josh Allen, and Josh Allen went to that level under him. I'd rather go with Brian Dabble than Leftwich if we're going with first timers, if I can be completely honest with you guys. And now it's interesting that he said not Harbaugh, because this came out tonight, and it said next move for Jim Harbaugh could be extension at Michigan. And you're saying, well, why do I care about this? Well, listen. It says Stephen Ross has indeed been talking to Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh in recent days, per sources, but not to coach the Dolphins. Ross, a major Michigan benefactor, wants Harbaugh to stay in Ann Arbor, and Harbaugh is actively talking to the powers that be about a new contract. A year after he took a haircut from his current employer, Harbaugh has leverage, and he's using it, openly toying with a return to the NFL, potentially getting a big raise to remain where he is. It's smart for Harbaugh on the heels of his best year at Michigan. Why not cash in, especially if he convinces school to cash out? Besides his most viable option, the Raiders may end up sticking with the guy they have. Guys, I think this is just posturing right now. If you want my honest opinion, you can bet your damn dollar. Like, is it this big of a coincidence that Fangio's getting fired, Greg Roman's apparently out in Baltimore, and apparently going to be out in Baltimore? Harbaugh is talking about coming back, and then Ross just fires. Like, why are you keeping Greer? Is Greer sticking around to facilitate a trade for Watson, or is he sticking around because someone okayed him sticking around that's a potential target and candidate for you? Like, you got to realize, even if they fired Flores and hired Harbaugh, they still got to go by the Rooney Rule, and they still got to interview. So are they sending us smoke screens right now? And we're just going through, we're just going through the motions here because they can't wait around on this. We need this settled like before February here. Like, this is not a joke. Sorry if I missed any donations. I didn't have the thing up, by the way, guys. My bad. Like, this is not a joke. This cannot drag out and affect our draft process with whatever the vision of this team's going to be. So, like, I don't know. This cannot drag out. This cannot drag out. That's where I'm going with this whole thing. But all right, let's continue on. Now, let's keep going, and I'm gonna open it up to you guys for a little bit tonight because I figured, hey, why not? There's two articles from PFN that I wanted to drop because we all know Adam Beasley is now with PFN, and Adam Beasley is also now, we all know Adam Beasley's ties to the teams. If there's any team he has sources to, it's going to be the Miami Dolphins, right? So let's get into that. I thought these were very interesting articles. So, let's get into this. Let's get into this first article here, and this is basically why the Miami Dolphins fired Brian Flores and who might replace him. So, they got two articles, one about Brian Flores and one about Tua. So, the Miami Dolphins need a head coach yet again. They decided to fire Brian Flores Monday after a third straight year out of the playoffs, even though Flores' team had won 8 of 9 down the stretch to have an outside shot at the postseason. Dolphins general manager Chris Greer will remain with the organization. I made a decision today to part ways with Brian Flores, said Stephen Ross. That's his statement. We've all read the statement. I don't need to go over that. So, and there you go. Brian Flores released his statement. I have not read that today for you guys, so I will read that for you now. Flores said, I want to thank the Miami Dolphins organization for the opportunity to be the head coach of this team for the last 3 seasons. It was an honor to represent the franchise and lead this group of men. I'm grateful most of all for the players, coaches, and support staff who gave everything they had on a daily basis to help us win games. They deserve the credit for any success on the field, and it was an honor of a lifetime for me to go to work with them every day. I've always believed that leadership is really about service, and I did my best to serve the players, the staff, and the organization every day. I believe in this team and will always value the relationships my family and I made here. The decision to move on from Flores sent shockwaves through the NFL and set the Dolphins up for another organizational reboot. Whoever replaces Flores will be the team's 4th non-interim head coach since 2015. Why the Dolphins let Flores go? In terms of wins and losses, Flores' body of work was far from egregious. In his final 2 seasons, the Dolphins had winning records in consecutive years for the first time since the early 21st century. But he was incredibly difficult to work with, and his relationship with Greer, his staff, and his players went from fraught to non-existent at times. Flores hired 4 offensive coordinators and 4 offensive line coaches in 3 seasons. If he were allowed to return for year 4, he would have had a challenging time assembling a quality staff. Additionally, Flores rode his players hard over making weight and speaking to reporters, embarrassing them in front of teammates, or even keeping them home from road trips over relatively trivial offenses. Flores' relationship with Tua. Flores didn't have quarterback Tua Tagovailoa's back from the first day Tua arrived on campus. He benched the first-round pick twice as a rookie and then tried for nearly 6 months to bring Deshaun Watson to Miami, even though he faced nearly 24 accusations of sexual misconduct. Then in November, Flores started Jacoby Brissett over Tua against the Ravens under the pretense of health and player safety. Tua had cracked a bone in his throwing hand, and Flores used that as a pretext to play Brissett. But Tua believed he was fine to play. In fact, he looked great when he had to replace Brissett in a game due to injury. What's more, Tua was well enough to play golf just hours after the contest ended. Like I said, I heard he was playing golf leading up to the game. Like I knew he was. So Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh has long been an object of Ross's affection, but Ross shot down the idea of luring him away from Ross's alma mater and back to the NFL Monday. I'm going to be the person who takes Jim Harbaugh away from the University of Michigan, Ross said. Keep an eye on Jim Caldwell, the former Detroit Lions head coach who was briefly on Flores' staff before taking a medical leave of absence. He never returned to the team. Former Eagles coach Doug Pederson, who has Miami ties, is another familiar name to consider. While the hottest names are currently coordinators on other teams, it'll be interesting to see if Ross elects to hire a first-time coach for the 3rd time. Ross said he was open to the idea on Monday. So, a lot of nuggets there, man. I mean, you're seeing it wasn't just players, but like staff were having issues with them. And I know Matt Canada tweeted out at one point today that some staff were relieved when they heard that Brian Flores was let go of. So, I mean, I don't think he was, as liked as people might think he is. Shout out to Scotty for becoming a YouTube channel member. As much as some of y'all might have held him in high regards, fact of the matter is, in the building, he wasn't held as in the same regard. And that's just where it is. And I got one more article. Trofer donated $4.99. Says Dabble left Alabama because Saban wouldn't start Tua his freshman year. Well, there you go. I'll take that. I mean, you got to understand, with an offensive mind like Dabble, too, I trust these guys if they want to stick with Tua or if they want to move off of Tua. Like a Harbaugh and a Caldwell, I would support 110%. I mean, Dabble, if he came in and said Tua's not the guy, wouldn't we all have to listen? But if he also came in and said Tua is the guy, wouldn't we also have to listen to that too? Exactly, ball game. You can't be a tyrant and you haven't won anything. I feel bad, though, because I feel like during the losing streak, I'm the first one that put this energy out there that we had to fire the guy, and here we are. I do feel bad. Like, I feel like I shouldn't have put that energy out there. I feel bad on that sense. All right, so is Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins plans following the Brian Flores firing? This is later on in the day from Adam Beasley. Following the Brian Flores firing, everything is up in the air now in Miami. If Flores had remained as Miami Dolphins head coach, Tua Tagovailoa almost certainly would not have stayed at quarterback. Their relationship had grown strained, to put it kindly. Like I said, I reported earlier today, guys, I heard there was an argument between someone from Tua's camp and a high-ranking Dolphins official that happened the week leading up to the second Saints game. And then after the Titans game, I was told Brian Flores and Tua Tagovailoa got into a very heated argument in front of the whole team. And Tua basically said, you can't treat people like that. Like, you can't, quote unquote, you can't treat people this way. And the reason why I was told that is because, he was apparently, y'all saw it he was raging on Boyer on the sideline. He was giving everyone the work that had an ear, basically. And Tua was the one that stood up and snapped. And I was also told that gained some cachet in the locker room with the players with Tua, because they like that he stood up. So, with that, the Dolphins will immediately begin their open search for the 11th non-interim head coach in franchise history. We don't know who will be on their wish list to replace Brian Flores, but we know who will not. Jim Harbaugh. Dolphins owner Stephen Ross on Monday ruled out the possibility of luring Harbaugh. I don't believe it, guys. He's still going to try. Now, Harbaugh might not end up here. I agree with that. But you're naive if you think Harbaugh and him are not talking about the Miami situation. Let's not fool ourselves. You know what I mean? So I mean, let's not be those naive guys. Let's just not. I don't want to look silly. So Flores' assessment of Tua apparently wasn't shared by everyone in the organization, most notably the guy who signs the checks. And remember in the offseason, which is why I was having a problem with those reports of Ross wanting Watson and that Florio had and getting on the phone with him. If you remember in the offseason, I told y'all Ross was the one shutting Greer and Flores down on the Watson move. And that had never changed from the person that told me that. So then, now that I'm seeing this, it's like maybe what I was hearing back in the summer was 110% correct. You remember that show? Ball Game was up here with me when I did that show. Ross addressing reporters Monday. It's the show where I talked about Flores wanting Herbert. Ross addressing reporters Monday after firing his third coach since late 2015. There was support behind Tua, but stopped short of committing to Tua as his starter in 2022. When asked what the role the quarterback position played in his decision to fire Flores, Ross replied, "First of all, let me be clear, it played no role at all. I have a lot of confidence in Tua, and I think the next head coach will work with him or whoever else." See, that he's leaving it open-ended. You gotta read between the lines with Ross. But I have a lot of confidence in him. I watched him grow. He's a fine young man. He's our quarterback. The decision will be dependent upon the new head coach, but I have a lot of confidence in Tua. Again, the decision will be dependent upon the head coach. So that's why I told you I haven't heard they're out on Watson. Deshaun Watson to Miami less likely than before, according to PFN. A reason the marriage between Flo and Tua went south was the team's consistent pursuit of the Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, rightfully so. I was told when this is from a player in the locker room. I was told when that Titans post-game altercation happened between Flores and Tua, quote unquote, I don't blame the kid, is what a player relayed. Like that, like other players in the locker room have that. And you saw, what did Jason Lockenfora report the day of, it was the Jacksonville game, right? The day before the day of the Jacksonville game, right? He reported that players in the locker room didn't like how Tua was handled and treated. I mean, Jason Lockenfora reported that months ago. It had a corrosive impact on Tua's confidence in standing with the team, but a bigger factor in Watson's desire to come to Miami was having Flores as his coach. Now that he's gone, it's unclear what, if any, interest he will have in greenlighting a trade to Miami. What's more, we hear that even before firing Flores, the Dolphins offseason plan at quarterback wasn't going to be Watson or bust. We expect them to keep their options open, although a trade for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson seems quite unlikely at this point. Perhaps they draft one in the first round. I doubt it. Maybe they try to. They're not going to. New coach might want to start over. Maybe they try to acquire someone like Ravens backup Tyler Huntley. No. Who was a solid but a bit error-prone relief in Jackson. Not going to happen. When asked Monday if he planned to pursue Watson this offseason, Ross replied, I have no plans. It will be up to the head coach in terms of what he does with the quarterback. As I said before, I have a lot of confidence in Tua, but it's really going to be dependent on the next head coach and the direction that he wants to take at that position. I mean, a lot to take in, everyone. I mean, we've just thrown 35 minutes of information just at you over and over right now. And I still got one more piece, but, kind of crazy how this is working out. Devontae Parker, he's out here, giving a thumbs up on Instagram. He giving a like to Brian Flores getting fired. And then he's getting into arguments in the comment section with Dolphin fans. Basically, you know, what I'm gathering is the offensive side of the guy. A lot of the guys on the offensive side of the ball didn't like him, and some of the guys on the defensive side of the ball didn't like him, and some of them were key pieces. Like, oh, woo! This man. Oh my god, it's ridiculous. And you can go find the let me see. Let me see. Give me a second. Let's see if I can find you guys. Um, but I mean, I think it's crazy. The big one is, that he held out 2 out of the Baltimore game for punishment for telling people he's healthy enough to play against Houston. Like, that's crazy, man. Like, that is nuts. Here, let me see if I can find this latest Devontae Parker thing. Yeah, because Parker didn't even say like anything, you know. He just started going at people. Okay. So here you go. I got it too, by the way, so don't worry. I'm opening it. All right, so here's the post on Instagram of Devontae Parker. Okay, so here's the post. Devontae Parker liked this post, and you can see his comments down here. Like, I don't give a fuck what it was. Ask your girl. Like, he's just out here talking mad smack. And then here's the thread. Someone actually asked him, why did you like this? Right? And he actually started going back and forth with the person. Devontae Parker, why you like this? And then, he's in that comment thread. So, and he's going at it. If you want me to bring up the Instagram, hold on a sec. Let me see if I'll bring up the Instagram. Let me bring it up. Hold on a sec here. I will actually bring up the Instagram for you people. Doing it right now as we speak. Give me 1 second. Okay, so. All right, so here's the actual Instagram post I'm talking about. You can go on Instagram right now and see it. There you go right there. That's the post I'm talking about. You can go find it on Instagram. Let me see if I can find the thread. Give me a sec. He might have deleted it by now. You know what I mean? Everyone just overly loving. I honestly don't get the love fest for like man, this guy has so much left to prove. You're going into fourth year, and this guy's still on to prove it because he hasn't taken us to the playoffs. Like, keep that same energy. Like, this guy's accomplished as much as Tua has. Like, let's be honest with ourselves here. You know what I mean? Like, stop. And if people out here like acting like we just lost Don Shula, a guy who's about to bring us a freaking Super Bowl. It might be deleted now, but those were the screenshots. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and go through this for like 10 minutes, seeing if it pop up quick, and I'm not seeing it. Miami Dolphins. Yeah, whatever. But that's the post. You can go and look through it on Instagram. It's crazy. I'm going to open it up to you guys and bring you guys on in a sec. Let's just quickly go through. Let's go through the PFF grades and the next gen stats from yesterday, and then we'll hop back into the Flores thing. I want to get you guys up here, okay? So let's start off when we look at the PFF grades for yesterday. I mean, is this the offensive PFF? I mean, look at this. Our highest graded player was a 66.2 against the Patriots. He only had 7 snaps. So the only guy with over 25 snaps, Duke Johnson 65.2, Durham Smythe 63.2, Tua 62.9, Adam Shaheen 61.8, Michael Dieter 60.4. You go to the bottom here though, Liam Eichenberg 49, Pilardi 51, Jesse Davis 53.6 before he got injured. Robert Jones, they only gave him a 53, which I thought he was definitely not that bad. I don't know what they're talking about. Robert Hunt 55.9, Austin Jackson a 57.2. And then even Jalen Waddle, like his lowest grade of the season, 58.4. When you look at how they did pass blocking pressure wise, right? They allowed 8 pressures, so down from the 11 they allowed last game. 7 hurries, 1 sack charge to Robert Jones. And then if you look at all 7 pressures came from the offensive line, and yet another clean game for Austin Jackson. But we'll let the tape tell us what it tells us tomorrow when we do the final Tuesday all 22 breakdown tomorrow night right here, me, Ball Game, and Martin. We'll get the real lowdown on what Austin Jackson was. So those are your pass blocking. And again, now if we look at how the regular season finished in terms of pass blocking, because we're getting into it. This is how our offensive line, these are how it ended up. So when you look at total pressures allowed, Liam Eichenberg was number 2 in the NFL. Jesse Davis was tied for 4th. And then if you look at Austin Jackson, he was basically tied for 7th. So we had 3 of the top 10 in pressures allowed in pass blocking this season. What an absolute joke. So let's move on. Keep it rolling. Let's get into the passing direction. Let's look at Tua. He wasn't, I don't give out my letter grades till the All-22 comes out yesterday, but not expecting a high grade. But when he was kept clean, he was 14 of 17 with an adjusted completion percentage of 88.2%. He had 1 drop charged against him. He had a touchdown and 102 yards when he was kept clean. When he was under pressure, he struggled yesterday. He was 1 of 5 for 7 yards. When he was not blitzed, he was 11 of 17. When he was blitzed, he was 4 of 5. So he finished yesterday 15 of 22. When you look at him on play action, he was 9 of 11 for 82 yards and a touchdown. And that's where the drop came. So he actually had adjusted completion on play action of 90.9%. On non-play action, he was 6 of 11. And he had that was and he had 27 yards only. And then when you look at the depth, so he was 0 for 1 from beyond 20. He was 6 for 3 from 10 to 19. He's 7 of 9 from 0 to 9 on the short level. And then behind the line of scrimmage, he was 5 of 5. So deep ball, 0 for 1. Intermediate, 3 for 6. And then short, 7 for 9. His average depth of target, again, when we go up here and, when he was kept clean, his average depth of target was only 4.3. When he was under pressure, his average depth of target was about 14.3. So going deep when he's feeling the pressure, you know what I mean? Not going as deep when he's being kept clean. You would expect a little bit of the reverse. So take your shots when you're clean, All right, when we go into the defensive grades, it's a little bit better. Zach Seiler, the highest grade, he had an 89.6. Sam McGuavin, although he only had 1 snap, so I don't count him, he had an 83.4. When your only snap, you score a defensive touchdown. I'm sorry, how do you not get a 99? Duke Riley, he had 18 total snaps. He had an 81.2. Javon Holland posted 79.1. When we start getting back into guys over 25 snaps. Xavier Howard, 61 snaps at 75.9. Andrew Van Ginkel, 49 snaps. He had a 74.6. Jalen Phillips, he had 35 snaps. He had a 71.3, so his snap count went up a little bit. And then when you look at Nick Needham, 38 snaps. He had a 68.9. When you go to the bottom here, Brandon Jones had a 36.2 Adam Butler had a 40.6. And Raekwon Davis had a 44.3. Eric Rowe had a 47. Jerome Baker had a 47.2. Byron Jones had a 49.8. So struggling when they're handing out the defensive grades over here on PFF. Good God Almighty, they're ruthless. When you also look at, when our guys were targeted, you look at the NFL passer ratings here, right? You got Javon Holland. He was targeted twice. He gave up one reception. He had a 56.3 NFL passer rating when he was targeted. You look at Landon Robertson, 89.6 when he was targeted because he gave up 3 receptions on 4 targets. Duke Riley had 100 because he gave up 2 on 2. Byron Jones, 1 target, 1 reception for 35 yards. So Andy had a penalty. He had a 118.8 when he was targeted, which is, you look at that 7-game winning streak, that guy was super low in his passer rating when targeted. Xavier Howard had a 70.1 when he was targeted. So let's get into, and then obviously you look at Jerome Baker had a 140.3 when he was targeted. Brandon Jones had a 118.8 when he was targeted. And then Jalen Phillips had a 79.2. So let's get into how we looked in our coverage matchups. Okay, so start off with Xavier Howard, targeted 6 times, allowed 4 receptions for 81 yards. And he had an interception. He allowed 3 first downs. Surprisingly, out of those 81 yards, only 12 of them were after the catch. Jerome Baker, he allowed a touchdown in coverage. He allowed a first down as well. He was targeted 6 times. He allowed 5 receptions for 49 yards. You look at Landon Roberts, targeted 4 times, 3 receptions against, 24 yards, and a first down allowed. Brandon Jones targeted 3 times, allowed 3 receptions for a first down and 53 yards. Javon Holland targeted twice, allowed 1 reception for 2 yards. You look at Duke Riley, targeted twice, 2 receptions allowed, 16 yards, and a first down. Nick Needham targeted once, 0 receptions allowed. Jalen Phillips targeted once, 1 reception for 1 yard allowed. Byron Jones targeted once for 1 reception by Hunter Henry for about 35 yards and obviously a first down. So spotty at times here. But I mean, hey, got the W. I don't know what else to say. We got the W. All right, let's get into the next gen stats. And let's get into the passing charts, and then I'm going to open it up to you guys. We'll get back to Brian Flores talk. The next gen stats. Let's start off, and I'm going to go over an article before we get back to you. We'll refresh it, back into the. I got an article to refresh after we do this stuff. So let's get into the passing charts here. We start with Mac Jones. You see Mac Jones testing. He was pushing the ball a little bit downfield and with some success. 20 of 30, 261 yards, a touchdown, and interception. Through that nice touchdown pass to Xavier Howard in the first quarter. Loved every minute of it. And you saw his touchdown to his own teammate came from behind the line of scrimmage, but most of his stuff came from inside of 10 yards. So when you look at Tua's passing chart, for yesterday is as follows. 15 of 22. And nothing really. You look at last week against the Titans and how he's pushing the ball everywhere. This one a little bit more controlled. He only pushed the ball beyond 10 yards, 7 times. So if they're going to count that one on the 10-yard line right here, but so 15 of those passes came from 10 and in front too. So and you could tell, they weren't opening up. They don't trust, at least under Brian Flores, they don't trust Tua, right? You could tell. We could see that for weeks, So when you get into the actual, next gen stats for the entirety of the game, This is what lies in front of your eyes. The longest completed air distance yesterday was Mac Jones, 51.2 yards, Tua 26.4. Fastest ball carrier is Brandon Bolden at 20.33. Duke Johnson was the fastest for the Dolphins at 18.41. Fastest sack was Kyle Van Noy, 4.4 seconds. For the Patriots, for the Dolphins, it was Wilkins in about 2.8 seconds. Now you see their passing depth chart right there. Tua, like I said, only pushed it they got it counted as 6 times. So he only pushed it 6 times beyond the 10-yard, and he was 2 for 6. So money underneath, but only 2 for 6 beyond. Whereas, like you see, 261 and 134 of those yards became on deep passes for Mac. I mean, if Waddle would have made that catch, Tua would probably have over 200 yards right now. But hey, it is what it is. When you look at rushing success yesterday, Damian Harris, he's finding most success running to the interior of the right side of his offensive line. Brandon Bolden, though, he was kicking it outside, showing some vision. Stevenson, again, to that right side, was finding success. When you look at the Dolphins, Duke Johnson, didn't matter whether it was inside left, inside right, out, kicking it outside. He was finding success either way. 117 yards on the ground, 25 carries. Love the effort by Duke. Philip Lindsay finding most of his success on the inside, which is crazy because he's not a bulking back. Then you look at Tua kicking it outside, some huge runs. Love it. We look at average receiver separation. The league average, again, 2.91 yards. Yesterday, when we look at the Dolphins, Mac Hollins, 1.28 yards. Durham Smythe, 3.99. Jalen Waddle, 3.6. Mike Gesicki, 2.41. Devontae Parker, 1.73. Again, another week where only Waddle and a non-wide receiver averaged more than the league average of separation. Because you got to take, these are the 5 highest they're taking into account. Again, when we go over here, league average, and the crazy thing is only one receiver. League average over here, okay. Hunter Henry, 3.24, okay. There's your Smythe. Jacoby Myers, under 2.06. Kevin Bourne, though, 3.97. Nelson Aguilar, 2.36. N'Keal Harry, 1.02. I mean, but we got, 2 of our best guys here. Let me bring that back. 2 of our best guys here are in the low ones. That is absolutely crazy to me. I'm sorry. That is absolutely crazy to me. And it's the same theme as last year. Gesicki and DVP couldn't separate. And we're right back there again. And Matt Collins at 1.28 is your number 5. I mean, at least their number 5, that's 1.02. He dropped from near 2.5 all the way down. We were on a steady pace down here. Look at the defensive pass rush. And, the average separation, league average separation from a QB is about 4.53 yards. Dietrich Wise averaged about 4.37 yards. Matt Judon, 5.38. At least Judon wasn't a factor. Gottschalk, 5.79. And Lawrence Guy, 6.33. Again, the league average is 4.53. Andrew Van Ginkel led the Dolphins in 4.31. Ogba was at 4.38. Wilkins at 4.58. And Davis was at 4.68. So Jalen Phillips doesn't make it. A rarity. So those are the next gen stats when you take a deeper analytical dive into the game. Before I open it up to you guys, let's go with one more David Hyde article, and then I'm going to open it up to you. And while I read it, I'm actually going to drop the link for you guys to potentially come back here. Let me get that up so I can load you guys up, and as soon as I'm done the article, I can hop right into you guys. All right, so let's pivot back. Now that we've recapped, let's pivot back to Flores a little bit. So Dave Hyde had this article today. He said Flores out, Greer stays. Owner Stephen Ross got it all backwards if this was about football. What now? Or to look at it from another angle, considering the Miami Dolphins got it all backwards. Now what? Brian Flores is out as coach, general manager. Chris Greer stays. That's the reverse of the manner change should have come from any sane and rational football view if this was in fact about football, which it wasn't entirely. Collaboration and communication, owner Stephen Ross said, were the reasons for firing Flores. Translation: it was about relationships again inside this team. Remember when Greer took over and said this dysfunction stops now? It hasn't stopped. It continues. Ross doubled down on Greer and quarterback Tagovailoa over Flores. Flores wasn't working with them, a source told South Florida Sun Sentinel. He also disrespected Ross in some manner in a way that led to his firing. You see that? That's why I brought this article up. Read that. Ross doubled down on Chris Greer and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa over Flores. Flores wasn't working with them, a source told the South Florida Sun Sentinel. He also disrespected Ross in some manner in a way that led to his firing. That fits Flores' developed portfolio of having trouble working with people. He went through 3 offensive coordinators and 4 offensive line coaches in 3 years. That's why he started 1-7 this past year, why the season was sunk. Why, in short, the long list of people he fired in 3 years don't have much compassion for his departure. But if Flores had his personal shortcomings to work on, Greer had football longcomings. Do we really need to go down the laundry list of personnel decisions from the draft misses and free agency misspendings? Are you trying to build a winning football team or a kumbaya campfire sing-along? So I'm going to stop there because the main point I wanted to get over here was, so I was saying to people, listen, it's one thing for your GM or other players to come to you and say, "Look, this guy's being disrespectful. He's a dick. I can't get along with him." But now we're seeing he also disrespected Ross in some manner in a way that led to his firing. So Flores was popping off on the owner too. On top of not working with Greer and Tua Tagovailoa that it says here. What does this guy think? He was going to exile everyone and he was going to be the last man standing? Did this guy have a couple $100 million to buy the team or $1 billion to buy the team? I mean, what's going on here? Like the arrogance. You know what this tells me? Arrogance. This tells me this guy thinks he can go toe to toe with everyone in that organization. And he's going to come out unscathed. That's arrogance if I've ever seen it. And we can talk about the offensive side of the football being his shortcomings as a coach and building a competent staff. But when you're going to do these type of things, man, I don't know what this guy was expecting. What you think did this guy really think a 7-game win streak fixed the fact we started 1-7? Stop it. You let the distractions go beyond Tua. The X distraction muddied and murky training camp and OTAs. Why do you play with that man's money? If you knew he was going to be a part of your defense in the long run, we all knew Noah wasn't the dude. Pay the man. Stop this. I don't know what to say. You look at this guy and the arrogance, man. The arrogance of this guy. I swear on my life. Bro, you need to put a G in your ego so you get an ego. Because you're going to get a lot farther in this world saying Lego my ego than people trying to tell you to let go of your ego. I'm going to tell you that right now. Get this man a breakfast buffet. It is ridiculous. What's going on, guys?
What's up? I'm so happy Flores is gone, man.
Isn't that the truth?
Hey, Reason, the minute you told me that backstage that one time, I was done on him from that point on.
Bro, think about how listen, everything I've been telling y'all guys, dude, I've known this stuff since like this past off season. I've been biting my tongue about this guy, and people have been saying to me, "Oh, you hate Flores because of Tua." No, I started souring on Flores, and I told certain people up here backstage multiple times, I started souring on Flores based on how I was hearing he was conducting himself with people. That's why I started. And I've been telling y'all, he wasn't the guy that you were seeing in media availabilities and in these Zoom sessions. And I had people saying, "Oh, blah 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 blah," like, first of all, it's not hard to discover and try and figure out where all that stuff I said came from in terms of the PED stuff. Second of all, that should tell everyone this guy was looking any way he could get off Tua. The guy was looking for this was turning beyond football. This thing was becoming personal. And why? Keep it business. Don't make this personal. And that's where this
was that the bomb? Was that the bomb? Reason about the PBs?
Yeah.
That blew my mind, bro.
Remember, I told everyone. Remember, go back 8 months
you
ago.
mentioned
I
back
told everyone
in March. I remember you mentioned it.
8 months ago. I was telling everyone I got information that'll pit Flores fans against Tua stands.
Yeah, and obviously
that discredits all the work that kid put in, bro.
Yeah,
Landon Roberts is a Flores guy, and he backed Tua.
Yeah, because look, these players remember that. There's a couple things I do want to say about this. So first and foremost, look, I could sit up here and pound my chest about being right about certain things, but I don't need to do that. Especially considering the fact that I'm not super excited necessarily about having to do a regime change again. I am a little bit cautiously optimistic because I think that Ross may actually make the right decision and make the right hire this time, even if it ends up being a little bit lucky by circumstance that, Harbaugh and his assistants are all coming, open and free at the exact right time. But if it happens and he does get that done, then all the credit to him. I want to see how it plays out. And I actually feel more confident about having Chris Greer there because, again, for me, when it comes to him and his success as a GM, I feel like, it just depends on who's in charge and who's giving him the marching orders, basically. And so a guy like Harbaugh who could come in, take charge, he can run the show, he can build a, top tier coaching staff with that Rolodex that he's got. It makes me feel a lot more comfortable as opposed to if it was just some fresh, nobody first timer that really hasn't done anything, or like a veteran coach that's been around forever but hasn't done anything. Then maybe I
think you're 100% right, Dylan, because you wouldn't see a drop off with the defensive coaching either with Vic Fangio because he did have a top 10 defense this year with all those injuries too.
The one thing I want to say
that this feels like Final Destination with this hardball shit.
That's funny. Well, the one thing I want to say
about it's a weird coincidence, though. I know that. When do you all think that they was out on flow?
It could
the
be
losing streak.
Well, look. The one thing I want to say about Flo is that, look, man. I took a lot of heat, especially from the Dolphins community over the past 3 years for pointing a lot of this stuff out. And you can look at, the Kenny Stills stuff or the Tunsil stuff or the Minka Fitzpatrick, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Kyle Van Noy, Tua, Howard. The list is there of all of these examples of how he's treated these guys. You add in the fact that he's proven to be a very egocentric kind of guy who can't handle other alphas, et cetera, et cetera. And then, on top of that, he's proven to also be fine with doing shady shit and lies constantly. And so, I was willing to kind of look past the fact that he's from the Bill Belichick tree a bit, but then he very rapidly proved to me that he was just going to have this toxic environment that he was going to bring here, and I wasn't a fan of it. So, man.
So long story short, he's an egotistical asshole.
Yeah, I mean, but people should have been able to see this from a long time ago, man. This is
like all the Patriot assistants. They've all been this way. I don't know why when people are going to stop hiring from the Patriots tree. Look at Bill O'Brien. Look at Josh McDaniels. Look at
Matt Patricia.
I'm brain farting down to Matt Patricia. They've all written out best players, and they all have an ego.
And Matt Patricia replaced a guy who I'd be interested in that he should have never. That should have never been fired, and that's Jim Caldwell. I mean,
that's
Jim Caldwell.
2 years of them.
Yeah, and like Reason said before,
Jim Caldwell's gone to a Super Bowl before.
Yes,
yeah,
and
just like Reason said
Detroit
before,
to the playoffs, 2-3 times? Detroit?
Yeah,
the
last
coach that Reason brought up that's nuts, though. But think about this, though, logically speaking. Think about this. Reason brought it up earlier this year is the only person that's been around Belichick that's been successful as a coach is who? Mike Vrabel. Not because he learned how to do it. It's because he learned what not to do when he was in New England.
He was a player. He wasn't a coach there.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying. He had to endure that bullshit. So he's like, nah, I'm not going to put my players through that crap. I'm going to trust my players. I'm going to, coach for my players. I'm not going to be an egotistical asshole like Belichick and Flo were.
He also understood, though, that you could take a guy like Ryan Tannehill, and if you build a team around him properly, he can actually help you to become successful.
Well,
like I just said, he believes in his players. He believes in his players.
I think we drafted the only quarterback our coach didn't believe in. We were like the only team. And like Reason said, it's not hard. There's like a blueprint of how to set up a rookie quarterback, offensive line, run game, and we did neither.
But
and not only that, but our coach didn't like him to begin with. So it's like whenever that happens, think of Jeff Fisher with Vince Young. It wasn't going to work. As soon as your head coach is adamantly trying to prove you wrong, it's not going to work.
Especially from Jump Street.
And what's crazy is Vrabel, he played under Belichick, but he was actually from Bill O'Brien's coaching tree. Yeah. So, he learned, he played under it, but he also learned to be a player's coach more so just from being a player. I mean, Bill O'Brien isn't a player's coach. Belichick, so this guy took what they had taught him as a player and as a coach, but he turned it into his own. And now Vrabel is the only one. He's building his own coaching tree. I mean,
Vrabel's going to probably win Coach of the Year, or at least be in the final running.
Arthur Smith, he was one of the key hires last year, and that's under the Vrabel coaching tree. That's his guy, right? That's his offensive coordinator and his tight ends guy. And so, I mean, the only guy who's creating that's been under Belichick is the guy who he coached under multiple guys. He coached under He played under Belichick, but then he coached under Bill O'Brien. So he was under that tree in multiple different aspects in different ways. So he saw how Belichick operated that system, but then he saw how Bill O'Brien operated that system, and he saw the success these guys had, and he made it his own. The problem with Brian Flores and all these guys is they're trying to replicate what Bill Belichick is trying to do instead of making it their own. And I mean, you look at what Brian Flores, I mean, look, when people are reporting, his relationships were non-existent with people at times, that's the same as us hearing Belichick wasn't saying hi to Tom Brady in morning meetings. But
they don't have the resume to be able to do that shit.
This is where we're getting to with this guy, and it's like I said earlier, keep that same energy y'all want to keep with Tua, keep it with Brian Flores. Tua's heading into his third year, prove it. He still has to prove it to all of us. But Brian Flores was about to head into a fourth year where he still had to prove it to all of us. And look at this. This guy beat the Patriots twice this year. He beat them in the season finale, back-to-back, beyond 500 seasons. Tua put up with Saban, one of the most hard-ass coaches at any level of football, and Flores is out. This tells you how big of a dick Brian Flores must have been. Ross must have looked at this and said, why am I putting up with this guy when I'm not even getting the results I want?
That's what I was going to ask.
It also proves the point. It does prove the point as well, though, that Brian Flores only learned or only listened when Belichick talked defense. Because how did Belichick, if you were under him for so long, see what he did? Not only when Brady came in, and now again with Mac Jones. How did you not learn? Hey, the key to success with a young quarterback is an offensive line and a run game. And your daddy did it, Belichick did it, but you can't do it. Magically, you weren't listening in that meeting. You didn't listen during that meeting or something.
He joined 5 years into the regime, I believe. He wasn't there for the early years of Brady.
It's the work environment is changing across the United States. You can't treat people like shit.
Hey, Reason, do you know this guy in Polly?
Hold on. Logan's talking, people.
It's happening across not just not just football, but everywhere, and I think it's a good thing, because toxic work environments is not okay.
Logan, you're 100% right. It can't be a dick at work.
Right. I know these players get paid a lot of money, but they're still human beings. You cannot treat them like shit.
I mean, they get paid that money because they put their physical health on the
line.
Todd,
you wanted to ask something, Todd? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, first off, when you have somebody looking over your shoulder micromanaging you, that's where you make your mistake. That's when you're under that pressure, when you have somebody nonstop. And that's what Flores is known for, micromanaging every last little detail. He can't, you got to let the players play and the coaches call plays. He doesn't let anything go.
Yeah, he can't trust his coaches.
And when you know you have your coach stabbing you in the back, how are you supposed to trust him?
Well, you could tell too it was checked out, especially after the Saints game. Like,
but hey, you know this guy. This guy Polly in your room right now. Is he trolling you, saying Tua's in here watching you right now?
I have no idea.
Oh, Todd, stat of the chat, Todd.
Yeah.
What do you think saved Greer's job and him not being penalized for this Flores hire? Because that was a big question. And Larry's, a lot of people were mad that Greer wasn't getting fired because, and I've heard you say Greer and Flo were tied together. Do you think it was last year's draft that really saved his job?
I think that's what saved him so far. And the other thing that is, I think, Flores was this big of a bridge burner. G456, he donated $199. He said Vrabel came up under Bill O'Brien. Stop with that.
One thing that Omar Kelly actually said, I believe, in his talk with Big O today on the show when I was listening to it, was he said that Greer is very much not an ego guy. He's got a very small ego, and
he falls in line, bro.
Yeah, I think I believe that too, just by listening to what he says in interviews, and I think that basically Flores came in there and kind of swung his weight around and made it his team, and so Greer was deferring to Flores a lot, and I think that Ross knew that, and kind of they were giving Flores enough rope to hang himself. And at 1-7, he was tying the noose, right? But I think what really kicked the chair from under him was the Titans game and the fact that he couldn't hold the team together, And when you're that bad a people person, there's really no saving it unless you have that kind of Flores would have worked if he was a coach in the 70s, right? When you were allowed to be this tough with your players and they couldn't do anything and they couldn't ask for trades and they had no power, right? Flores might have worked back then, but nowadays, unless you've got that 6 rings and you've got that coaching staff, which is just a bunch of yes men, because that's basically what Belichick has. He's got yes men and his own kids on his staff to the point where nobody there is going to question him, so everything runs through Belichick, right? And Flores couldn't get that here. He needed 15 years to build that. And he couldn't get that because he was trying to do that right away. Right? And even then, I don't think that's how you should run a football franchise. But then again, I don't have 6 rings, so.
Yeah. Well, neither does he, and that's the thing that is a huge part of it. It may have worked eventually down the line if he got to establish that sort of long resume that Belichick did. But that's one of the problems with these coaches is they think they can go in right away from day one and do that, and they can't do it. But the thing is that level of toxicity, I mean, eventually it's going to rub enough people the wrong way too many times, and it's going to come to a head. Like you can't hope to continue.
You have to win.
Exist.
The only thing that's gonna, if you win, people are gonna turn a shoulder to it. If you're not winning, people are gonna turn on you.
And I
heard Topher with a $4.99 donation. Can you imagine how much racist remarks Ross would get if he fired Flores and Greer today? Yeah. I mean, that's where people are gonna go. I mean, the guy hired them. I mean, we're gonna all of a sudden forget that he hired
Ross
them?
ain't gonna care about that.
I just wanted to say about Dylan's thing. My only thing is I don't think no matter how much time we had given Flo, he has no concern for the offensive side of the ball. And if he's not willing to listen to other people or have another alpha come in who can run our offense, and when people try to tell him something and he just fires them or treats them like crap, he's never going to learn. So I don't care how much time we gave Flo. He would have never figured out the offense.
I had somebody
3
ask
years of
me
history
earlier.
showing he hasn't. Yeah.
I had someone ask me earlier, do you feel more confident without having Flores going into next year, or would you feel more confident with him? I honestly feel more confident without, because going in with him, I just know I'm going to get another bad coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
4 offensive line coaches, and there hasn't been one little bit of an increase.
Yeah, I'm not excited about regime change for, every 3 years, but I agree he wasn't going to get it done, and especially at this point. So that's honestly, for me going forward over the next couple months, that's going to be the big thing that I'm personally keeping an eye on, because I want to see what Stephen Ross does. My feelings on him, and I want to see if he can, put this major play together and get one right for once.
You remember what Flores always used to say?
Yeah, Dylan, you got to face it. This is Dolphin Olympics. We'll be doing this in 2026. No matter.
Hey, you remember what
Every
Flores
4 years,
used to
we'll
say?
be doing it.
I'm going to put the best players on the field. Then how come besides Jalen Waddle and Gesicki, Mac Hollins was our most consistent receiver when he was on the field, but you would never see him on the field? They would.
Well, he didn't put Gesicki on the field.
They would take him off.
Dude, listen, they could have put in
and stuff.
They could have put in some of the backup line. They could have put some of the backup linemen in, just so that way these guys couldn't play games and rack up pressures and be 3 of the top 10 worst offensive linemen. They could have spread the love around a little bit.
Come on now, what did Robert? I didn't hear what you said. Robert Jones rated today. How did he do it at tackle?
He didn't do good. He got crapped on.
Did he?
I mean, the hope isn't very high for those guys. I'm just saying, we ended with 3.
But the question reason is, did he play any worse than Jesse Davis? That's the question.
Who can play worse than that guy?
Philip Leduc donated $5. If an environment cannot resolve employees' relation, we have a toxic organization. Flores never lost a locker room. 8-1. This is a major setback.
Everybody's got their opinion.
Fix it with the hire.
$9.99. Hard to say that Harbaugh isn't coming based on events. Is there a possibility that Marino's in Ross's ear regarding Tua? See something? I've always just known that he's a fan of Watson. I don't know what. I haven't heard anything about him saying, move off of Tua or whatever like that.
I'm sure he advises, but I don't know how much actual pull he has.
He has a ton of pull. He has his ear big time.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I just mean
that's
that
why he's in his ear about Doug Pederson, and I'm hearing that Doug Pederson is being seriously considered. Jose Lucas donates $2. He said Landon told Tua, it's coaching. Yeah, we all remember on the sideline, bro.
I got
to hear your point real quick. Reason I also heard that Marino was the one that put in a good word for Caldwell before the Flo hire.
Not surprising.
As a special advisor.
Todd number 2. What's going on, bro?
Todd 2.
He's muted. You're muted.
What's up, pal? How you doing? What's up,
going
boys?
on, buddy?
Yo.
What's going on, buddy?
Crazy day. I can't say I'm unhappy about it. I'm a little torn on starting over, but I think it was a necessary change.
But are we really starting over? If we're just hiring a head coach, all he's got to do is bring in a defensive mind that can deal with our personnel. That's all we really need.
It just the moves that follow are.
You know what
huge.
the big thing is? When Flores came in, we had to get rid of everything. We had, like Ross said, we had veterans with high price tags. Right now, we're one of the youngest teams. They can still be molded. We got a lot of young talent on this team.
And draft capital if they don't want to trade for
draft capital and a lot of money sitting in cap space.
No.
Yeah. Todd, continue your thought though. I'm sorry. I just had to add that.
I think that it's certainly not starting over, but what it is, the uncertainty at the quarterback position was going to be there whether or not we kept Flores or not. So, I have very strong feelings about that. So I'm hoping that they bring in someone with some offensive, knowledge that I can trust their evaluation.
Yeah.
I didn't believe Flores was giving Tua a fair shot. I didn't think that he even knew how to build an offense that he could succeed in. But at the same time, if he brings in an offensive guru who has a similar feeling about Tua, well, then that's just an evaluation I'm going to have to accept, even if it's not one I agree with. It'd be a little bit easier to swallow, though, from someone who I didn't feel like didn't have Tua's best interest at heart.
Has a proven track record with quarterbacks and the offensive side of the football. Like that's what it comes down to is we will Harbaugh, Caldwell, hell, even Brian Dabble, if he comes in here, we would trust more with his evaluation of Tua than we would not even just Brian Flores, but the offensive coaching staff he put in place. Like,
yeah. Well, with Dable too. I mean, there's someone.
You can bring Dorsey. Dabble can bring Dorsey too.
Right, and Dabble was Tua's offensive coordinator for a year. You know, I mean, that was his Alabama offensive coordinator.
Him and Saban were going at it because he wanted Tua to start early, right?
Right.
Yeah. This next hire is everything. I mean, who they bring in is going to be key.
Yeah. And I also think whoever ends up being defensive coordinator also gives us that we don't have to completely reset and, you know, we can focus on the offense, which is what we need to do.
My thing, though, Todd, too, is I want a coach with a Rolodex. I don't want some new coach coming in here and they bring one of their buddies who's proven from where they're at. Like Dabble brings Dorsey, who's he's bringing as his DC. Like, I'm not like clamoring over the Buffalo Bills defense right now. Like, I need someone that's going to bring a Rolodex. The reason why I love Harbaugh coming with Fangio so much is Fangio takes that defense, and whoever Harbaugh entrusts as his OC, Harbaugh is the offensive mind at the end of the day. So that OC is just under him, the way Sean McVay's guys have been under him, and the way LaFleur and such were under Shanahan. Like, you know, so, I mean, like, you know, I'll tell you this much. I would explore, and I said this on my Patreon, that, you know, he could be available via this option. I would explore trading for Sean Payton before I go with a young guy that doesn't have a Rolodex with them. Like,
facts.
You know, especially if I'm sticking with Tua. Like, I mean, look at Sean Payton. Perfect quarterback for Tua's skill set, but on top of that, knows how to build a run game, knows how to build the offensive line. Like, that's what the most attractive thing to me about Harbaugh is too. Not just he will figure out our quarterback situation. I know this guy's going to build a run game. He's going to build an offensive line. And under his regime, he's always, if you go back to San Francisco, even when they were 8-8, they were still a top 10 defense. They were still a top 10 run game. You know what I mean?
Harbaugh played in the NFL where defense and running game mattered. You know, when he played, running game and defense was how you won championships. You know, now as much as we all want an explosive passing game, and obviously, you know, teams like the Chiefs have won with it, you know, Harbaugh played in an era where you'd much rather come into the playoffs with the top-ranked defense than the top-ranked offense.
And reason.
But Todd, that's how Todd. That's how you win in our division, bro. That's how these teams are built to be beat. Is you got to play that way. I mean, let's be. And even when you go to the top seeds right now, like that's how you're beating the. That's how we would have beat the Titans. Like
reason when we spoke. When we spoke in the middle of our win streak, I said to you, we had talked about, you know, what team in the AFC scares you if we got into the dance. And I said, more than teams, the weather is what scared me. You know, the weather was going to be our hardest opponent in the playoffs because no matter where you go in the AFC, with the exception of Indianapolis, who didn't get in, or the Chargers, who you knew were going to be a late seed.
Or Vegas if they got home.
Right. You were going to play. You're going to travel to Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, New England, Buffalo, and we just don't travel to that well, you know, and even our defense doesn't travel to that weather because we can't stop the run. You know, we can't stop the run consistently. We can stop the run when we have a lead. We can stop the run when, you know, we're putting pressure on the quarterback, but we can't have you pound the ball on us in a 10-10 game all game without us breaking. You know, we don't have the thumper in the middle to take those 30 power runs. You know, so
that was back to what we say.
We had that. Right. We got rid of it in the preseason.
Todd,
when you're building a team, boys, you always build a team to beat your division. You always win your division. Buffalo, look at the teams they've lost to. They've lost to the Colts. They've lost to the Titans. They lost to the Patriots. Even Pittsburgh. What do they all have in common? They run the fucking ball. And sorry for the language, but it's like this coaching staff has been so negligent of the running game. They refuse to do it. Like when we beat Buffalo last, like it feels like freaking 4 years ago. What do we have? Jay Ajayi. Like Jesus.
Hold on a sec. Todd's over here talking about weather. How far do we really think we're getting in this cold weather without a run game?
Right. And I live in the Northeast. I live 60 miles from the Jets' home stadium and 90 miles from the Patriots. I live in the AFC East. You know, you cannot win here without that type offense and defense. It's just not possible. You know, what we were completely negligent, and we continue to do it, and now it'll be much easier with Mac Jones instead of Tom Brady. But we built a team to beat Tom Brady in Miami, which was great. We'd win that game, and we'd finish 8-8 or 9-7 or 7-9, and they'd finish 13-3 with a loss in Miami. You know, and we built our team. We built our team around defeating New England in Miami, and not much else.
This year's no different. We won this game, and it was nice, but it doesn't mean anything for us, and they still make the fucking playoffs. Like,
like you said, I hate when they say, "Oh, well, Flores beats New England." Everybody beats New England in Miami. That was what freaking Gase said when he went to the Jets. Is, "Oh, I beat New England." Like we've always been able to at least split with New England. Like Todd said, it's nothing new.
If we had the same game we had against New England, we would be in the playoffs right now.
Hold on a sec. Todd was on a roll.
Well, the other thing too, even about Tua, you know, and I'm the biggest Tua proponent in the world, so I love coming up with stuff that makes him look wonderful, although, you know, I do understand the warts.
At least
but the reality is, you know, the blemish on Tua, forget about everything that you show me in his offense. And, you know, because I believe that he's been held back by the run game, the lack of the offensive line. His weapons are horrible. I was at the game Sunday. I was telling Reason, man, when you could see all the next gen stats you want about zero separation, when you see it live, I mean, we get no separation. I wouldn't throw that ball under any circumstances to some of the windows he's looking at. But the thing that does scare me and has opened my eyes, and as successful as Tua has been in the fact that he's 3-0 against New England and 3-0 against Belichick, and he hasn't lost to the Jets, so he's 5-0 in those two games. He doesn't look like he's got any chance of beating Buffalo anytime soon. You know, those games, we look like he could play 13 quarters on a Sunday afternoon. We might not score. And that has opened my eyes a little bit and scared me, because I don't know how far we are away from competing with them. And not even, you know, on a consistent basis. Now, the thing about it is, I'm a proponent of Tua's efficiency, because the way I see it, you're going to play 8 games during the year where you are prohibitive favorites. You're a 7-point favorite. And those are games that the Patriots have feasted on going 8-0 in those games. And then you're going to get 8 games where it's a 3-point game. And those are the games you want to go 4-4 in. And when you figure it all out after that, you're 12-4. You've won your division. You have a bye, and you get a home playoff game, and you're 1 game away from the AFC Championship game. You only have to be 4-4 against good teams, as long as you do not get upset against the teams you're supposed to be. And you never see the Patriots lose to the Jaguars, and you never saw the Patriots lose to the Browns. They won the games they were supposed to win, and that's what I like about Tua's efficiency. He wins the games he's supposed to win. Now, when he doesn't show up, we're going to lose by 20. But he beats the teams we're supposed to beat, and he beats them by more than a touchdown, which means that they were really never in doubt.
But that's the thing, though, is when you look at that, and especially take everything into full context surrounding him, I think it's reasonable to say, I mean, obviously it would have to play out, but I think it's reasonable to say that, you know, the gap can be bridged if the things around him are just fixed. Like, because look, I think he's better than Mac Jones. I do.
100%.
You know, I think Mac Jones is perfect for that system, et cetera, et cetera. But like, I think he's better than Mac Jones. And, you know, the Patriots beat the Bills, you know, with him at quarterback. So the reason why is obvious, right? So like, I just think if they were able to do that, then I think that he absolutely could compete within the division, even against the Buffalo.
And I agree, but I wanted to say this. I've been trying to say this real quick for a while. I think that it's not only part of the Rolodex with the experienced coach thing, but also it brings down to, you know, what Todd number 2 just said about beating the teams we're supposed to. Think about this, though. How many games this year did we lose because of bad clock management, bad, play calling or crucial situation, decisions. And that's where I think, firing Flo and getting an experienced coach in here, where obviously, and, I can include replay in there too, whoever the replay guy is going to be.
Challenging, I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly. So, but imagine, again, having an experienced coach where 3 of the, 4 games we lost with Jacoby, we may not have.
Yeah, I don't know how he's so bad at situational football when he
came from Belichick. Exactly. My God,
so
it blows
weird.
my mind.
It's so weird because he got to witness it for years. I mean, he obviously had various jobs, started as a low-level scout.
But he still got to watch it.
Here's the thing,
exactly.
though.
It's
not
so
everybody can learn by watching. And the thing about Belichick is
true.
Belichick does everything there. Right, he has his finger in every single pie. So unless you're exceptional at one specific thing, and even if you are exceptional, Belichick's still gonna have his, his fingers on your shoulder, his chin on your shoulder, watching
That's
everything
fine.
you do.
I just think peripherally, you should be able to pick up on some of that stuff.
Or
well,
at the very least, when he does it, Belichick does something, you have to understand why. Okay, he did this, but why did he do that? And if you're not thinking about that as a coach, or you're not picking those things up, then you shouldn't be a coach.
And maybe that's the thing. Maybe Belichick only surrounds himself with people who stay in their lane when they're told, basically yes men, like I was saying earlier, to the point where when they go off, they don't succeed. So he doesn't lose coaches all that often. Or when he does, there's this stigma about Patriots coaches for a reason. And maybe that's part of Belichick's plan, is that he doesn't hire people who do great outside of their lane.
Well, I don't agree with that, though. I don't agree with that. That's the thing with the Patriot coaches and why the Belichick tree has been unsuccessful, because it's kind of understood at Alabama with Nick Saban and Belichick. And that, listen, I'm going to help you get a job, but you're not making my coaches with you when you go. You could have the interns, but you can't have the guys I want. And that's why they all leave. And the next thing you know, they have to promote guys who don't belong in that position. Sure, Belichick will give you Chad O'Shea. You could have my wide receiver coach and make him your offensive coordinator because he's not ready. Or you could have my quality control coach and make him your offensive line coach, and that's fine. But you're not taking my defensive coordinator, and you're not taking my offensive coordinator, and that's the reality on why these coaches fail and they end up back in New England, because they come without a staff and they come without any Rolodex whatsoever, because they've only been in New England, and you're not allowed to touch his coaches. And
and I agree with that. But it's also part, again, my whole thing is he was trying to say that, they just take his way. No, it's the fact that you may not agree with what he's doing, or maybe even, agree with him, but why is he doing it? So that when you are a coach, you can make your own decision, because in the circumstances he's doing certain things, understanding why.
Yeah. I understand.
Doing it. That's the big.
I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. You should, if you're a coach under some guy for 15 years, you should be looking at these things, especially if you aspire to be a head coach someday yourself. You should be taking notes on everything and trying to figure out why and what for, and looking at other coaches and things like that.
You'd think.
You should do that. I'm saying I don't know if Flores did do that. I don't think he did do that.
He didn't at all.
And I think that I don't think that Belichick necessarily wants people who do that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
I think, gentlemen, we've all been looking at
this is just something as Dolphin fans we understand, and as a Patriot fan you may not understand it, but the reality is it's a little easier to coach when you're Bill Belichick, because, listen, we're always challenging to try to get the call reversed to what we know is right. Like 2 weeks in a row, it looks like a ball was kicked and the other team touched it. Well, we have to decide in that moment if we want to challenge to try to overturn the call in our favor. So a close call we don't get. we also are looking for a replay to make a decision, and sometimes the network doesn't show it. When you're New England, you want a flag for pass interference, you point to the referee and he throws it. When you're New England and you want a roughing the passer call, you just ask Belichick to look at the referee and he calls it. They're never challenging to get the call corrected. They're challenging to maybe overturn one in their favor. We're calling them just to get them corrected sometimes. Listen, if it's a close call, they're getting the benefit of the doubt on the field. And then you have to disprove it.
Guys. So,
there's some internal biases. Let's keep it real.
Hey,
but our
in
the NFL.
Y'all have a good night. I'm going to leave you with this one thing. I don't blame the Tennessee loss for us not being in the playoffs. I blame the Atlanta and the Jacksonville game. And being outcoached by Urban Meyer is a fireable offense.
What I've been saying. How many times have I gone my rants on this channel? I said this guy got outcoached by Urban fucking Meyer.
Well, that's
Stop with this.
I live in Jacksonville.
Such a big deal this week about the Chargers calling a timeout so that the Raiders can win the game, and it kept them out of the playoffs. The bottom line is we did the same thing. We called a timeout, and that's why Jacksonville beat us, and that's why we're not in the playoffs.
But you know what's even worse than that, Todd? You know what's even more of an indictment? And I fell victim to this. For as great of a defensive mind he is, why is that the only game on the schedule? Well, Sunday he kind of looked like it too. But why is that, let's say, one of two games on the schedule where Trevor Lawrence actually looked like the first overall pick?
Right. Well, because Byron Jones, that the tough thing about that is Byron and X didn't play that game. And the worst part about it is they were game time decisions not to play. Is that you didn't go into the week expecting them not to play, and you woke up Sunday morning. And that is my biggest argument with people who want to talk about Tua's weapons. I believe the biggest problem that Tua has faced is the lack of continuity with his weapons, because every week his receivers are game time decisions. He never knows who his receiver is going to be until an hour before the game. Devontae's a game time decision. Preston Williams is a game time decision. And you need some continuity, especially as a young player. And we never ever Tua's had 7 starting running backs running the RPO. They have to make a decision together on where that ball's going in the handoff.
Well, you saw early on
with
him with the reps with him and Lindsey and Duke. They were having handoff issues when he first arrived on the team.
Seven different running backs. Right? Yeah. 7 different running backs in less than 20 games that he's run the RPO with, and they need to be making the decisions together. And again, no continuity whatsoever.
Bro, you know what's beautiful, bro? If Harbaugh or Jim Caldwell come here, find me the prop bet, Todd, on how much it is we take a running back in the first round. Because they're gonna look at this team and say, "Oh, are you kidding me right now? Like Gaskin, bro, you're 195 pounds soaking wet in Tennessee, and it was raining.
And you play like 140.
I would only keep.
You play it. Brian donates $5. He said 15 plus years of overinflated experience in New England to being shown the back door in Miami. He's shaking my damn head.
But see, and part of what you said, Todd, is the thing, right? Like, okay, I get they were when it comes to the defense, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, and whatever early on. He knows what kind of defense excels for him. Like, we all know what kind of defense Brian Flores runs and what is successful, right? Like, I don't see any reason why, and especially when you go into a situation with uncertainty, I don't know why you would not go with your bread and butter. And I'm telling you, like, Trevor Lawrence would not have looked like that if they would have, if they would have.
But I said this a few times, Dylan, in your defense. It still blows my mind. It still blows my mind that up until the trade deadline and we didn't get Watson, we played that stupid defense, and then all of a sudden the trade deadline comes and goes, and magically our defense is playing aggressive.
It's not a coincidence. I mean, Flores even told the team that they were going to play an entirely different brand of football, but the only thing that changed was the defense. Right, so I mean, it seems pretty obvious. Like,
but the thing
that's
about
what
it
I
too
was saying in your defense about that whole about the whole set.
Hold on a sec, Todd. Before I get to you, Showtime. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? Coming out of the Twitter streets, saying what's up to everybody.
You got out of those Twitter spaces, bro?
Yeah, man, they're fun. But I just wanted to add, as far as Flores, when people keep bringing up if he lost the locker room or not. I mean, they drafted and they signed high character guys. I mean, minus what you think will happen with X. I don't think they would have given up despite any situation. And you have a lot of people playing in a contract year. Like, why would Ogba not try? Why would Nick Needham not try?
And Pride too, right? And they got Pride.
Yeah. Right? So I'm not saying Flores didn't have an influence, but I don't think they're not trying just because of him. They're professionals at the end of the day. This isn't high school.
Right.
Well, I told Todd this privately. Showtime. I haven't had a chance to hop into one of your spaces yet, just because it's been a while. But you know what the telling factor was? These guys lost, and it went right back to drama behind the scenes. Like as soon as they lost the Titans game, and you hear what was happening behind the scenes, it was like y'all went right back to how you were during the 7-game losing streak. You went right back to the dysfunction and the distraction shit.
I saw he was yelling at the DC in the game.
Yeah, Boyer.
Mike Gesicki tried to give him the ball. He's trying to talk to Tua, and Tua's looking at the ground. It was just so much of that going. It was
dude,
weird.
and I reported earlier. I don't know if you saw my show, but I reported earlier about.
I watch your stuff.
There was an argument between them, and he basically Flores was ripping on anyone who would listen, and Tua let him have it, bro. But think about this: how far does Tua have to be pushed? A guy who was coached under Nick Saban to finally stand up and have enough of you. You must be a real piece of work, bro.
This is a kid whose father used to beat him with a belt if he had a bad game. I mean,
exactly, bro. Come on, man. When he finally stands up and says essentially "F you," he's had enough, bro.
Yeah.
That's bad, man. That's bad.
I think people forget.
Flores, bro.
Look at his face in the Patriots game.
Go ahead, Showtime. Go ahead, Showtime.
I think people forget that all these players are individual businesses and they're human. And we like to think about it like Madden, like, oh, this player is trash. Yeah. We can just put them to the side. Yeah. That's not realistic. In life there are consequences to what you do, and it came back to bite him in the butt.
And you know what, Showtime? All the difference too is you got a 53-man roster, but you got 53 different personalities. You got to learn. There's some guys that need to be coddled more, and there's some guys you got to be hard on. That's the thing that make great coaches is they know how to balance out, and they know how to coach each person the specific way. Some coaches just have that. But Jeff, you were trying to make a point.
Personality, man.
No, I was just going to pile on what you guys were saying. It gets back to Tua wasn't smiling that whole New England game. I feel like he just looked pissed straight up.
But he was still performing.
Oh yeah, he was still delivering, and he did what he had to win the game. But it's like Reason said, you need to be balanced. It's why all of us listening coaches, we want a Rolodex, or if it's a first timer, we want to have hope that they balance out the offense. Because let's be honest, and I think Ross hinted at it in his presser. You guys heard it. I got the feeling from Reason said, do you trust Flores to one, get the offense right, and two, to properly evaluate the quarterback position?
No.
I don't. You know what I mean? If they want to trade for Watson, I don't want him making that call. I want the next guy making that call.
Let me hit you with this. Yeah, sure. But I got to say this. What if Jim Caldwell can convince Todd Bowles to be his DC?
Oh, no, my God. Reason, please stop. No.
Stand back together.
Anyways, go ahead, Showtime.
I wanted to ask a couple questions. One, why did they hold the information that from when I saw Jesse Davis play, I felt like he was hurt all season, and then they finally put the knees and they put the elbow. When I saw that DB beat him, I think it was in the Saints game. I'm like, why is this guy playing tackle? And then at the end, in the last game of the season, you finally bench him and put Robert Jones. Yeah. You could have started him in the Jets game.
Yep.
You had Duke Johnson for a month. That's negligence, bro.
That scares me about Greer.
You had Duke Johnson in that Titans game. Clearly, he was our best offensive player on the field and screaming for you to feed him the rock through his play. You didn't, okay? You talk about Jesse Davis. I'll let Todd go, but this is my theory, and I think I've told Todd this. I think we're dealing with favorites because that same question you're asking, Showtime,
of course,
I couldn't figure out why Myles Gaskin, when you have Lindsey and Duke Johnson on this roster, why are they trotting him out on 3rd and 1 when he's 190 pounds and these guys are bigger backs who are falling forward? Like Gaskin had to be like a favorite. Like it made no sense why Gaskin is no, and that's why you all know that's why I was holding Stootsville accountable. I'm like, first of all, the run game, where is it? I wouldn't know you're the run game coordinator, let alone my offensive coordinator. And second of all, you're okaying this personnel decision of them because we saw them do it multiple times to the point where they started getting stuff so bad. Now they would run the Brissett package out there on 4th down, and then they started doing that, and the Saints put on tape, we know how to beat this. So what do they do in week 17? They run out the Brissett package again when they get stuffed on 3rd down. It's like, who's not watching the tape and seeing that the tape is telling you, take this out of your playbook? It's not working right now.
Do you think that Flores was vetoing the play calling? Like just
No, I think he was giving them too much leniency and enabling them, bro. I think you want my honest opinion, and I can say this because I know they're about to be out the door. I think he had a bunch of fucking idiots running the show. If you want my honest opinion, bro.
Well, this is
there was also
like,
a
how do you have
like Showtime. Explain this to me.
Go ahead.
Perfect point. Saints game. We're up 20-3. You're still putting Waddle and Smythe in the backfield with this twin back set, okay?
Yeah.
You keep using Waddle when we're up the whole game, right? We're clearly going to be eating book when we're up 7-3, 7-0. But you want to keep using this, okay? When you couldn't manufacture space when Jalen Waddle was getting bracketed against Tennessee and when he was getting the same treatment against New England, where was that creativity to get him free releases off the line of scrimmage and to get him into open space, especially in the Titans game where you want to get him in clean footing areas with how bad that field is because he's not a 4.27 guy in that weather. So you want to get him on sure footing, catch the ball, and he can take off. Where was this creativity of trying to get Waddle involved? It's like, where to go?
I stopped seeing the motions. It's like the creativity died.
Bro, and then Wilson comes back and they start using Wilson on the motions this past weekend. You're like,
honestly,
when
I saw Mike Gesicki throwing a triple coverage, I was like, the season's over.
That's your trick play.
So I've been about as pro Flores as I think anyone on the panel has been, and I will admit that I still don't know how much exactly I believe all that, but I'll say even I'm kind of relieved that he's gone just because of so many things I've seen and so many little things click together. And once the guy's gone, you don't have that bias of him being your coach. So you're able to see things a little bit more clearly. And again, maybe it's just my positivity bias, but I am more hopeful because I saw too many little things like that where Solomon Kinley was left off the field the entire season for basically no reason. And the O-line management, I wonder how much of that was playing favorites, right?
Okay, look at this. Look at Solomon Kinley. And you can continue, but just add to Solomon Kinley. They were harping on him to get his weight down. They benched him, and this guy looks heavier than he's ever been. What does that tell you? He said, I got my weight down like you asked me to. You didn't play me. You benched me anyways. You gave it to Austin Jackson. Go fuck yourself. Yeah. Go ahead, Marcus. Continue. Go on. Keep going, Marcus.
Can I add to that real quick?
No. I'm going to let Marcus finish his point. That's how it's going.
So then I think a lot of that what happened with the players where you saw favorites and stuff. And at this point, I do wonder if it was Flores who drove off Minka. And I do wonder if it was Flores who pushed for a lot of these really bad decisions and pushed to keep Tua off the field when he knew he was the better quarterback. But he just wanted to make it look like.
Don't forget about Kenny Stills, bro. I have a screenshot. Yeah. Luke, the artist, Miami, out of space, talking about
Uncle Luke.
Wife.
Was it Uncle Luke?
Yeah. Why Flores was fired and Kenny Stills was in the space. I have a screenshot.
And I think 100% that stuff was happening with the coaches too, where Flores wasn't hiring the guys or keeping the guys who were the best for the job. He was keeping the guys who would listen to what he said because he was trying to build that New England system of surround yourself with yes men who just bow to your vision and then trot forward regardless of what anyone says. But the problem is, like we keep saying, he's not built that 10, 15 years of reputation of winning, so he can't rely on that to say, hey, shut up, I know how to win games, right? This is my system. So
yeah, and I wanted to build off real quick before we get too far off subject. You were saying, and Reason did too, that when you go through this whole playing favorites and not actually having guys improve themselves, it's not based on play, it's not based on their performance. It's how many times that we had the opportunity, whether it was the middle linebacker position, whether it was the offensive line. If you say that you're going to play the best players every week, obviously Austin Jackson, Jesse Davis, Myles Gaskin when he can't pass block worth a crap, and you're putting them in those positions and letting them play, it's absolutely playing favorites. That's all I was trying to say.
It takes Flores half a season to make a change. Did you guys see Javon Holland's post about snakes in the grass?
I think what happens is that he develops his favorites, right? He likes his yes men. So this one player will basically do whatever Flores says and will support him and whatnot. So he puts him in a position to succeed and gives him all the opportunities until it becomes blatantly obvious to everybody and the excuses stop flying as to why the other guy's on the bench. So then he goes, oh, fine, I'll make the switch. And I think that's what happened with Tua. I think what happened is he put Tua in the game and everybody in the locker room or everybody on the sideline said, thank God, finally. And he's like, I can't put Brissett back in because then we lose this game, right? So I got to keep Tua in there.
I think the biggest thing with Flores is that he'll sink the whole ship if nobody wants to go with his changes.
I don't know.
Just to stand his ground and just to prove his point, man. I heard he was so stubborn. Go ahead, Todd. Yeah, I wanted you to go earlier. Go ahead.
Well, my first point, that the one thing that gives me apprehension about Greer is the fact that if you really came into this season and thought we were going to make a playoff push, with the talent that was in that offensive line room and the talent in our running back room, I have to question your compensity for offense at all. Because, I mean, those running backs were so deficient in what they can't do. Forget about what they're capable of doing. What they can't do is fundamental football. You know, they cannot create any yards after contact. They can't pass block. You know, there's just their deficiencies will sink an offense. The offensive line, forget about how bad the starting five was. We actually stayed healthy with those five. What were we going to do if somebody went down? What was the answer? You know, if Robert Jones in their eyes wasn't even good enough to replace them for horrible play, what did you have behind them? You know, if there was an injury, what were you going to put on the field? But besides that, I think the problem with this staff was, you know, in high school football, if somebody starts beating the shit out of you, normally within 2 games, your staff will get it fixed. And in college football, if somebody's beating the shit out of you, normally you can get fixed by the next game. And in the NFL, a good team gets fixed by the next half. A great team gets fixed by the next series. And we were continually, you know, we couldn't fix it. And when you watch what Tennessee did, see, our team is very heavily personnel based. Tennessee knew how to get us in personnel packages that we couldn't compete with them. You know, they would get us in a situation where they could pound their power running game out of Landon Roberts, and we had no answer for it. And they knew exactly who they had to put on the field to draw the personnel grouping they were looking for. And that's very good coaching. And on offense, the whole key was, let's get Myles Gaskin in on 3rd and 8 and ask him to pass block for Tua. And then it's game over. Because you know one of the tackles is going to get beat. That's just going to happen. And then you're going to need the running back to help. And, you know, unfortunately, there's a little bad luck, you know, in the fact that Philip Lindsay was here for a week and was the best player on the field for us, and then immediately twists an ankle and isn't ready to play. So we come back with Duke Johnson, and he's the best player on the field for us on offense. But, you know, you got to a situation where, again, they just weren't available, you know, as much as we needed them to be. And moving forward, Ahmed is obviously gone. And Gaskin was admirable last year. This year was a rough year for him. He'd be gone. Duke would be in my running back room. Lindsey would be in my running back room, but I would have a stud in front of him. and basically
Exactly.
that would be my 3 running back, my 3-headed monster. All 3 of them with the ability to block, the desire to block, yards after contact. Somebody twists an ankle, you still got a tough runner behind them. But we need to, as much as I'm the proponent of a run game helps Tua, a run game helps Tua until you start running the ball and you get 4 yards on first down and 2 yards on second down, and you set them up in 3rd and 4, and then you try to run the ball again, and now the drive's over when you come up a yard short. Or you get 8 yards on first down. So, of course, on 2nd and 2, you're going to run the ball. But you get stuff for nothing. And now it's 3rd and 2, and you run again, and now it's 4th and 1, and you're punting. And you took the ball out of Tua's hands. And as Tua was a sniper on the first drive of the game for the first 6 or 7 games he played. And then we got a run game going. But the problem with that was we took the ball out of his hand in the first drive because we started running the ball. He never got in that rhythm again that he used to get in to start a game. It started with the Giant game. It actually started with the Jet game where Duke went off. And we never got to that situation where Tua got in that 7 for 7, 12 for 12 to start the game and get in that rhythm again because we were trying to establish the run game. But just running the ball 30 times for 3 yards a carry isn't a run game. I understand doing that when you have a 10-point lead and you're trying to take the air out of the ball and close the game out. But just running to run and, they're drive killers. 3 yards is a punt.
And I got to ask one question.
The experienced coach, that's where the experienced coach knows when to say, hey, we want to keep the running game and the passing game balanced, but we also know where our playmakers are at. And we know where our QBs are.
Guys. First of all, I said Dylan was going to go after
Go.
Todd. Second of all, Marcus tried to talk first. Okay, so Dylan, Marcus, go.
Yeah, I'll make this quick. I mean, we've talked a lot, especially over the course of this season in particular, about the deficiencies and the incompetence on particularly the offensive side of the coaching staff and whatever, and Flores' ability to put those guys in place to begin with. But I think especially after today, man, after the bombs were dropped, I think people are underplaying the how much he would sink the ship intentionally just to get rid of Tua thing. But hey, I mean, maybe that's just me.
Marcus, go ahead.
Maybe, but I got to ask one question. What yo mama joke did Jared Dokes tell Flores that kept him off the field the entire year when our running backs are struggling every single game?
He might not have just been ready. He might not have picked up the playbook.
Yeah.
Maybe, but how do you not at least try the guy?
I know they were suspect of him in the passing game, too. In
Yeah,
catching
exactly.
the ball.
Well, no, I also heard that pass pro-wise, he wasn't doing well in early camp. There were a lot of reports that came out about that.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. What I was hearing was him catching the football. He was dropping the football a lot.
Well, they kept Duke Johnson out on the practice squad. How many games?
If you couldn't start this year as a running back, I mean, that's just
yeah, I know, eh? Chief from 456. Anyone mentioned DVP liking the tweet of the flow firing? Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Okay, let's go through final thoughts. I'm about to hit 2 hours. I went for like an hour and a half earlier today. And I got to go tomorrow for like 2 hours to review all the Tua tape. So, Logan, start with you. Final thoughts, bud.
Yeah, man. Flow's gone. I don't understand this infatuation. Like, I'm getting an argument with someone online. It's like, it's the Don Shula. It's like, he was like our best coach since Don Shula. Like, as far as I know, he didn't win a playoff game. Like, even Wannstedt won a playoff game. So I guess he's our best coach, right? Or maybe Jimmy Johnson. I don't know.
I'll take Tony Sperano over.
Yeah, Sperano took us to the playoffs. I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, it doesn't come as a surprise, but to me, because like I knew a lot of this already, but I can't believe that happened. That was pretty crazy. But I guess I just contradicted myself. All right, I'm done. Anyway, sends up.
Powerhouse, what's going on, bro? Your final thoughts?
Hey, yeah, it's been crazy to hear all of these stuff about Flores. He has been his own worst enemy, and I don't like wishing bad on people, but it's his fault that he's gone. You can't really blame anyone else but himself.
Yep.
But I'm just looking forward to our next coach, and hopefully we can see an upgrade into it in our defense and make it all the way. Fins up.
Dylan, your final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great chatting as always. Yeah, I don't know. At this point, like it's funny. I woke up to it today because Logan texted me and he says, did you see or something like that? And I was like, or he said, wow, that's crazy, something like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I looked at the alerts on my phone and saw it. So crazy day, obviously. For me, it's just the next move. That's the big thing is, can Stephen Ross finally get the right people in place? I think if he gets a, Jim Harbaugh type, that would probably be the most ideal one at this moment. But if he gets a Jim Harbaugh type, I feel pretty good about it.
Oh,
you followed Jeff Darlington's report reason. He's looking for
Rome Gray, I've missed you so much recently, my guy. Like, I know you're coming back more now, but I've missed you. And and that is not a misspell. He calls him Jorez. So he said, I wish bad on Jorez. I hope his wife say he ain't shit. Oh my God. You and Ronnie Rome, you guys are the funniest guys ever in the comments.
It's his own fault, bro. It's his own fault. So it is what it is.
Classic.
Let's see where they go from here. Fins up.
Crypto, your final thoughts, and does your wife tell you ain't shit?
No way. Not on Horace. That's crazy.
Brian Flores would trade her for Deshaun Watson if he said that, Rome Gray.
That's crazy. Man, it's a wild day. I don't know why the Watsoneers or the Watson Krats or the Watsonons will be
they're called Watson Wanters. That's what
I don't know why would they be so depressed because of Watson, this great savior. It shouldn't matter what coach we have. We should have Daffy Duck as the coach. He was going to bring us the Super Bowl.
Crypto, if you're a top 3, top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and I say, here's Brian Flores, or here's Jim Harbaugh or Jim Caldwell, what the hell are you saying, bro?
Jim.
Yeah, I know. You go with Jim.
Either Jim, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. Like, that's what you're out here playing. So stop with that nonsense.
Right. They shouldn't be depressed.
Yeah, go ahead, though. Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead, though, Crypto, sorry. Oh, he's done. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Not even a fins up. Just, oh, yeah. All right, Marcus, your final thoughts, dude.
Okay, so I'm still processing this a lot. It was a bit of a shock. Was not expecting it. Got the news and was like, no way. But you know what? It is what it is. I can see the merits in it, and I'm not going to play devil's advocate for Flores because he's gone and it doesn't matter anymore. So I'm happy that they did it now if they were going to do it. If this was a concern, if this was something they were thinking about, I'm glad that they just ripped the Band-Aid off now instead of let it fester for a while. Because while I would have personally probably given Flores another year, I'm not the GM. I'm not the owner of this team. I wasn't there every day. I didn't see it. I didn't hear all the rumors and get all the reports. So ultimately, as a fan, all I can do is take the information I've got and form an opinion on that.
Tell him you're trusting in Stephen Ross's vision right now. Tell Dylan how much you believe in Stephen Ross's vision right now. Let him know.
Right, exactly.
I am cautiously optimistic that we can make a good decision here because I'll be honest, Ross has made a couple of boneheaded coaching decisions before, so wouldn't be surprised if it happens again, but I'm hoping it goes well, right? So yeah, this was a surprise, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's better that it happens now than it happens a season from now. And we're all saying, why didn't we do this sooner? So yeah,
bro,
let's go ahead and get this.
Hey, let me tell you something. You keep throwing shit at the wall every 3 years, eventually it's got to stick, bro. So
right, I mean that was Flores's whole OC motto, right? Just a new one every year. Eventually, one of them is gonna work out.
Dude, he's like a Mormon of head coaches, offensive coordinators, bro. It's ridiculous.
Nah, but yeah, thanks for having me on the show. It's been good to kind of talk about some of this stuff because let's be honest, there's a lot of people are shook from this, and a lot of opinions and hot takes are flying this day on the Dolphin sphere. So yeah,
From this. It's so
you guys, fins up, guys. Let's hope it works out.
Dude, I was more shook that Waddle didn't catch the slant yesterday than I.
Oh my, he'd still be running.
I ain't even lying, bro.
Yeah, he's still.
I've been waiting for that play all year. This thing I've been calling. I've been talking about this since we were losing 7 games. So, Jeff, your final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I know it's been a while. I know I'm not going to get into the whole quarterback talk because that's been beaten to death like a dead drum. And we discussed the X's and O with Flores. I feel like the reason he's gone, and you got to see it, especially at the end of the year, and I know Reason's touched on this already, but the discord between him and Chris Grier. I mean, think back to 2020. We spent, over $100 million in free agency, and all of them but Byron Jones are gone. Yeah. 2 of the players are paying to play on other teams, with Kyle Van Nott and the guard there, Eric Flowers. Yeah. Then you go to this year. We trade for Bernard McKinney. Cut. We signed the center who can't snap a football. Cut. It's like there's clearly a discord here, between the GM and the coach.
Jeff, it sounds like it sounds like Greer's taking L's because of Flores' personnel decisions. When you put it that way, I just want to say that. Anyways, continue on.
No, but then there's also decisions like Jermaine Illuminor, where he had him on the roster, cut, and he goes and he excels elsewhere. So it's like clearly, I agree. I think Greer's not done himself any favors either, but, and I'm so sick of people saying with Flores, he wanted Herbert. My response is, I wanted Jonathan Taylor, and you guys took freaking Noah. That was a Flores pick all the way through, because they were counting on it. So, the discord, whether they're right or wrong, because I know you're not going to hit bat 1,000. You know what I mean? You're not going to hit everything out of the park, but you can't have this discord with your GM and head coach. You just can't. So Ross had to pick a side or get rid of both of them.
And we go back to the arrogance of Brian Flores. Yeah. Chris Grier has outlasted everyone in that building over the last 20 years, and he thought he was going to win that battle.
Yeah. Yep.
Talk about overplaying your hand, Mr. Brian Flores. Jesus.
And Reason, you said it. Like, he's changed his decisions. Like, look at the one year they did take Laramie Tunzel when he fell. They didn't take Panay Sewell this time. So you can't say, he's always taking the same type of players. He's not. He is changing who he's taking.
Well, yeah, my boy Dante Collinelli, he did an article a couple months ago on DolphinsTalk.com, and he dived into Chris Grier's history of drafting. And, he's an evaluator, right? So,
yep.
And he said by the time he was done, he's like, the evaluation process and their whole draft process changed so significantly from what it was Chris Grier's prior years to what it was when Brian Flores arrived. Like, and he's like this, but even before that, right? Because Grier had been around for 20 years, right? He's talking about
the scouting department.
Yeah, but he started moving up before Gase was around, right? He started moving up the ladder.
He became the head of the scouting department.
Yeah, he just worked his way up.
So he started looking at like his arrival in the scouting department to where he was. So like when you're in the scouting department, you still got philosophies, right? Like, and he's like, it was consistent up until Flores came and it totally like flipped on its head. You know what I mean? So, but in the same token, I got to assume Flores had say on Holland and Phillips, so I got to give Flores props for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
CT, your final thoughts?
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm glad Flores is gone. There's a lot of dysfunction and a lot of other stuff going on that this team didn't need. I really want an experienced coach. We saw this year that there are a few games that we could have won with a better experienced coach, knowing what he's doing. And on top of everything, I really want to say this. I'm not a two-a-near because I do believe if we bring somebody in with experience and they want to move off of Tua because, they have the offensive, prowess to make that decision. But it just irritates me when Reason first dropped the bomb, to some of us in the off season. I'm sorry, but there's no way doing my job that you cannot believe in your athletes. And this young man was willing to put in all that work and you wanted to doubt him. That ended everything for me on flow. He deserved to go. So fins up. I hope we do well next year. I hope we address some of the issues that we have. so that we can be a perennial winner like Greer has promised us.
I want to be a wiener.
Revo, Harbaugh. Another reason what's so enticing about Harbaugh to me is that second tenured coach, man. A lot of these guys, they figured out the second time around, and if his first time was the first Super Bowl appearance and 3 NFC Championship appearances, what could the second time be? That's what
exactly. Yes, sir.
Todd, your final thoughts, buddy.
First off, it was wonderful seeing all you guys. I missed you. And Reason, thank you for offering us the best Dolphin platform there is. And then, as far as I'm concerned, I think Highlighter Bread just brought it up. I think what saved Greer is Marvin Allen and Reggie McKenzie are, I think, in that package deal, they're too valuable to give up on immediately. I mean, Marvin Allen literally is the most popular man in the NFL. He has his hands in everything. He can get any information, any rumor, and I just don't think Ross was ready to give up on that. As far as moving forward, I'm open to several coaches. Like everybody's talked about, I'd like a guy that's done it before, but Dable does interest me. You know, the Tua connection. And again, I'm Dolphins first, but I want to see Tua here. Yes, I want to see Tua. Yeah, I am. I just believe in the kid. And again, the last thought, and I'll keep it short. Like I've told you, Reason, I understand Herbert and Watson and all those, but I continue to go back to the win-loss record. And why it matters to me, again, is Tua has proven if you give him the help, his ceiling is not as high as those guys, and he's not as sexy, and they will wow you with the throws, and they can beat anybody on any given Sunday. And it's like Eli Manning. Eli Manning was a 500 quarterback, but he can go on a playoff run or win a Super Bowl on any Sunday. But he's going to be a 500 quarterback most of his career. And Deshaun Watson's 28-25. Herbert is a losing quarterback up until this point, and Tua is 14-8. And the reason being, if you surround him with talent on the days that he plays teams that are better than him, he's going to need a lot of help to win. But that's why you build a team around him. But he's never going to lose to the team he's not supposed to lose to. And there's a lot more of those. So give me those 12-4 seasons where I lose to Buffalo twice, and I'm in the playoffs. Where those other guys, they're 500. Again, Herbert, as wonderful as his years have been, still under 500. Somebody's got to explain to me why that is. Somebody's got to explain to me why Watson won 4 games last year, or why he's 28-25. The numbers are gaudy, but it's they lose a lot of games they're not supposed to.
It's a bigger picture than that,
dude. Yeah, it's because people overlook team building. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, like, I go back and forth with people on Twitter all the time, and I always tell them, like, you guys overlook team building.
Yeah.
And that's why Flores got fired.
Yeah.
There's nobody that could tell me that he could build a confident offensive staff.
I agree.
You don't see people on offense trying to defend him either.
No, I agree with you.
And one last thing, Reason, I've said it to you privately. I've said it to you privately, which makes me laugh hysterically and talk about team building. We took a 5th-round pick for Ryan Tannehill. And since then, he's been to the playoffs all 3 years. He's gone to the AFC Championship game, and this year he has the number 1 seed. Since then,
keeps rising, bro.
Since taking the 5th round pick for him, we've spent a 2nd and a 5th to get Rosen, the number 5 pick to get Tua, and the price for Watson that everybody's willing to pay is 3 firsts and a 2nd reportedly. So that'll be 4 first-round picks, 2 seconds, and a 5th to try to upgrade from the guy we took a 5th-round pick for that's been to the playoffs all 3 years into the AFC Championship game.
Outrageous, bro.
That's crazy.
Well, you
and
don't
then they
draft
also
somebody...
got David. They got David Long too with the pick that we gave them, the 6th-round pick that we gave them in that trade. They got David,
and
Long,
we paid him, and we paid Tannehill $7 million of his salary.
You don't draft or
ridiculous.
sign a QB and just say I don't want you anymore. That doesn't make any sense.
Showtime. Go with your final thoughts, buddy.
All right, Mom. I'll be quick. If you guys want to catch me on Twitter, I'm there. Reason free to jump on anytime. Anybody's welcome. As far as Flores, don't start 1-7, and don't put your career in the hands of Jacoby Brissett.
Like Rob, Showtime.
Dude, that is perfect. He signed his own pink slip when he put Jacoby Brissett in for 2 games he didn't need to.
I know you saw it, Showtime, because I know you're on Twitter. Bro, when you see that 3 yards per carry is reporting that he also, they willingly held him out of the Baltimore game because they wanted to, like, dude, and I got caught. Go check this out. You want to hear something better? I got someone hit me up today saying they know for a fact, and they're going to send me the evidence, but they know for a fact Tua was ready to go for the Colts game too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, man.
And I told y'all, I found out, this man was out here.
And the saddest thing is about Flores.
Yeah, but then they would have had to not put him on IR because of mandatory 3 games.
Well, that's why they put him on IR on purpose. I know that for a fact. They put him on IR on purpose to avoid him trying to come back for those games. And they were able to sell it as he's going to try to come out too early. We want to protect him. But the more evidence goes to
it's not
show.
Just that. It's not just that. They wanted to push the injury-prone narrative.
Right.
Yeah. Because it helps them getting off him and selling him, right?
Exactly. Oh, look, Tua can't stay healthy. He hasn't been on the injury.
It's so funny because it's counterproductive because, again, and Reason reported early today, not even reported, just pointed it out. With Tua, Brian Flores is 14-8. Without him, he's like 10-17. This is an apples to apples comparison. This is the same staff and the same personnel. It's tough to compare, Herbert and Tua because the two ears are going to say, well, he doesn't have the offensive line, and he doesn't have the weapons, and the Herbert people are going to point to this. But forget about that. With Ryan Fitzpatrick, a 17-year veteran, and Jacoby Brissett, who had started 26 games in the NFL, Brian Flores has produced a 10-17 record without Tua. With Tua, he's 14-8 under the same circumstances.
And Todd,
it's the power of arrogance,
you can't be a head coach in NFL losing to Urban Meyer, bro.
And Todd, Justin Herbert, Mr. Rocket Arm, flowing hair going around. Why did he lose this past Sunday? Because his coach is an idiot. So, you're only going to go so far.
Exactly.
Bro, you know what's kind of crazy, though? That's what the point I was going to make. I knew he was going to bring them back in that fourth quarter, but I knew they were going to lose in the end. Like, I even tweeted out, I said, all right, now I'm ready I literally, after they tied it, I'm like, all right, I'm ready for Vegas to win this in overtime because I love chaos. Because I knew that's what was about to happen, bro. Like, dude, Herbert was ridiculous in the fourth quarter.
Oh, my God, 6 of 7 on fourth downs? Woo! 6 of 7?
Yeah, but you know the thing is, but the thing is, I said to EM, I said, you watch this guy? This guy's got Michael Jackson touch, bro. It's like it makes you cringe when you look at it, and it just ain't quite.
He was late on that read, by the way, too, in the end zone, but he threw it so hard he got it through the guy. He was late.
This guy, bro, he's overshooting people because he's got no touch. Like everything, bro. This guy's throwing 8-yard outs at 350 miles per hour,
He's
bro.
breaking his running back's hands. That's what I've been saying.
He don't know what to take the velocity off.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I'm gonna say this right now. If someone comes in and helps him develop touch and he learns velocity control, I don't know if there's a throw that Herbert cannot make on a football field. But those are big things that you need someone legit. Like, I wouldn't have got rid of Pep Hamilton. I wouldn't have got rid of Pep Hamilton. I would have kept Pep Hamilton working, but the guy they needed to fix that, they only give him 1 year and send him out the door.
They need a Pep Hamilton or a Dorsey.
That's the thing. Herbert's arm, similar to Watson's ability with his arm, that's where my point with garbage stats come from. Listen, Vegas that night knew that a tie got them in the playoffs. So when you get a 15-point lead, you're protecting the tie, right? But like I said, so you knew the San Diego was going to come back because a prevent type defense, Herbert is going to destroy with that arm.
Oh, those are big.
I know he does, but against those defenses,
the minimum.
That's like Herbert against Houston in the game that he knocked me out of Survivor. The bitch
hey.
But there's a picture for 336 yards in that game.
Bro, you're not going to tell me. I already know what the deal is. You play man and you push him towards the sidelines. You take away the seams and the deep stuff, and you make him make throws outside the numbers towards the sidelines. I already know how to beat the guy. But I'm just saying, like, the moxie he showed in that fourth quarter to bring them back was like, bro, that touchdown, that laser he threw into the end zone between two corners. I was like, oh, bro, there's nobody in the NFL that can make that throw, man.
Do you guys see the head coach getting fired?
Who, Staley? No.
No,
I'm
he
surprised.
No, you know he cost them basically the playoffs. And
They had a losing record last year. They have a winning record under him this year. They're not going to.
Although, reason you got to give credit to Carr on that one throw he made in overtime. That was a big boy throw on third down. That was a whole.
Bro,
God.
Carr was clutch when he. Yo, I'm out of here, boys. All right,
All right,
guys. I'll see y'all tomorrow, 8 p.m. No, sorry, 8 p.m. 9:30 p.m. We'll break down every snap from Tua Tagovailoa, and yeah, last Tua Tuesday of the season. Hopefully, not the last one ever, and we don't have to shift to Watson Wednesdays. But if we do, we do. All right, so let's see how it works
Thanks
out.
for having me on, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Guys, we need a coach, but like in the next couple weeks because draft season is the new season opens March 17th. We cannot play around. We need the new coach in here, and we need the offseason game plan put into action. And the clock is against us right now because if you are a head coach, I mean, Flores found out he was fired today during the exit meetings. So, like, you're still in season mode right now, right? So we need this turnaround. We need it done quick. And guys, do not be surprised. I said it earlier. Remember, they fired Flores. They have to adhere by the Rooney Rule. Don't be surprised if they're just doing a song and dance and the Harbaugh move is coming down the pipeline next week or something. Don't be surprised. That's all I'm going to say. Now, I still advocate for Jim Caldwell and a couple other guys, but I'm just saying don't be surprised because, dude, I laid out the evidence a couple shows ago. There is no way Ross is not going to dip his toe in that Harbaugh pool to try and bring him here. It's just not going to happen.
He never took it out, bro.
So
You kidding me?
you got way too much of a coincidence with Fangio being fired, Greg Roman's potentially on the out. Harbaugh wants to come back, and we fire our coach right away after a winning season. So we'll see how it works out. But, guys, I'll be back tomorrow night, 9:30 to a Tuesday. Me, Martin, ball game. Until then, already know what time it is, baby. Fins up all day, every day.
Hit the like.
Take care.